Made everyone wait long enough. I know we have two more commissioners joining us. Hopefully they'll be down here momentarily. So this is item 5A6 on the agenda. And I'm sure staff has a presentation, and Commissioner Weiss is going to be collecting the cards and doing them this afternoon. All righty.
Okay. So I'll start by changing my script and say, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Tammy Fields, Assistant County Administrator. Joining me at the table this afternoon is Dr. Ismi Ayala-Calaza, Assistant County Administrator and Director of FDO. Taruna Malhotra, Deputy Director of Community Services. Jonathan Brown, Director of Housing and Economic Development. Howard Falcon, Chief Assistant County Attorney, and Jeff Bolton, also from Housing and Economic Development. And we're here to talk about strategies for our unsheltered residents and affordable housing. And as you can see by the staff that's gathered here, this is a multi-departmental presentation, as is the approach that we have to take to addressing these issues. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that these are issues that Ms. Baker has championed for her entire tenure with Palm Beach County. The BCC has established strategic priorities to address the needs of our unsheltered residents and also ensure access to safe, suitable, and affordable housing. After we address the strategies for our unsheltered residents and receive direction from the board on which strategies to pursue, we will move directly into Part B of this item, which addresses home ownership and asks for direction on what to include in our next RFP for bond dollars. I'd like to take the opportunity to also mention that Palm Beach County was recently awarded a $500,000 heirs grant to assist families in clearing title to their property and supporting generational wealth. This will help us maintain home ownership. And HED and their partners should be congratulated for the excellent job that they did in that grant application. Housing is not a static issue. We have shelter for our unsheltered residents, programs to address the needs of those who are at risk of becoming unsheltered. We have affordable housing, workforce housing, and of course, market rate housing. The needs of our residents are likewise not static. We have those living in crisis, living on the streets or in their cars, those who are vulnerable, living in temporary shelter or couch surfing, those who are in stable, affordable housing, paying less than 30% of their household incomes for housing, those who are self-sufficient and renting at market rate, and then those who are thriving and have attained the goal of home ownership, something we can wish for everyone. We've discussed on many prior occasions the laws in Florida regarding unsheltered persons and the prohibition on continuous nighttime sleeping on public lands. So I'm not going to go into that in depth here, but I do want to emphasize that the law does not require the county to have a bed for every unsheltered resident of Palm Beach County. Likewise, there is no statutory obligation to provide affordable or workforce housing. Despite that, we recognize the need, and it is supported by many of the local and state and federal incentives and regulatory programs. Palm Beach County has taken numerous steps to address the public camping law with the support of this board. And many of these efforts have proved successful, as you will see from the point-in-time count numbers that Taruna is going to go over. I do want to put out a word of caution, though, on those point-in-time count numbers, that even though it does show a significant decrease in the number of our homeless, we did find, those of us who were volunteering during the count, that it was difficult sometimes to engage the homeless. And we heard fears expressed that with the House bill, many homeless felt that they were under the impression it was illegal to be homeless, and so they hid from us. There were ones that also expressed concerns that they didn't want to disclose their immigration status or their LGBTQ status, and so they did not want to engage with us during the point-in-time count, which is not something we've encountered in the past. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Taruna to discuss the point-in-time count.
Thank you, Tammy. Taruna Malhotra, Deputy Director, Community Services. So in the next few slides, I will share some point-in-time numbers and then services that we are providing to our residents. Our point-in-time 2020 to 2025 has fluctuated, just like Tammy mentioned. Please note that in year 2021, we did not conduct point-in-time due to the COVID. Though HUD requires point-in-time to be done every other year, as a continuum in our county, we do point-in-time every year to stay close to the current changes in the landscape in our community. If you look at this slide, in 2024, the total peaked at over 2,000 persons counted during our point-in-time. 2025 numbers is level with 2020 at about 1,500 person counted, but we believe it is due to some of the fear that Tammy talked about the House Bill 1365. In 2025, 40% of the persons counted were sheltered versus only 25% sheltered in 2025. This indicates that we are able to engage more folks in our work and get them in services. This map shows our count by district. The persons counted were heavily clustered in District 7 with almost a third of the total count. District 2 has 11% of the total count, and District 6 had 8% of the total count. 215 individuals were counted in the remaining districts. This map displays our count by zip code. The darkest shade on the map indicates where the count was most heavily concentrated. Counts of over 120 individuals occurred in one zip code, 33401. Riviera Beach and West Palm Beach were the most heavily impacted zip codes, followed by Belglade and Lake Worth. I'm going to talk about the projected needs. This slide zeroes on 4 special populations in our community: veterans, seniors who are 62 plus, youth who are 18 to 24, and chronic over the last 5 points during the point in time. Veteran counts fluctuated slightly, hovering around 100, and the veteran counts makes up 7% of the total count in 2025. Seniors count, unfortunately, steadily rose, but now dropping in 2025, and they make 13% of the total count in 2025. Youth, 18 to 24, also steadily rose in 20 to 24, and then dropping again in 2025, and that makes 6% of the total count in 2025. I will caution again that these numbers were fluctuated because of the fear in our community during our counts. Chronic count remained steady and then jumped well over 200% in 2024. And the chronic special population makes up 24% of the total counts in 2025. The functional zero. Built for zero uses functional zeros with 4 measurements, which are homelessness is rare and brief, full accounting of homelessness at all the times, and a focus on equitable opportunities for our clients and sustaining these achievements over time. As per 2025 point in time, we have 107 veterans who were reported homeless, and then we have placed 56 veterans just in last 3 months in some kind of housing. This slide talks about what are the housing unit gap. A recent FIU study drive homes the need for low-income rental and owner units. The housing supply gap for residents at or below 30% AMI is over 30,000 renter units and almost 43,000 owner units. And for the one who are between 31 to 50% AMI, the housing supply gap is almost 3,000 renter units and over 33,000 owner units. So here we have listed many tools in the toolbox that we are currently have been implemented to address some of these needs. Community services with our partners have done a lot of work in addressing the challenges of homelessness. Using a multi-pronged approach is critical as the needs are varied for the people we serve. We continue to expand and add to this list as needs, methods, and approaches are realized. I do want to highlight some of the programs from this toolbox. Is the recent launch of our medical respite program with Salvation Army, and also working towards getting additional 8 beds with our Lewis Center to have medical respite beds for our population. Thanks to the board and Ms. Baker to approve 2 mental health positions in our last budget that allowed us to initiate the medical respite programs on the street with our HUD teams, which we are seeing a lot of results and able to bring a lot of those chronic population in the shelters and able to get them engaged. We also expanded our call center to 24/7 for our homeless services. And then also now we have an online portal for residents to inform about any encampments or homeless activity in the community. This slide continue with some of those toolboxes which are outlined. We are working with Jonathan Group to set aside units with a lot of housing authorities and different programs we are working on. Engaging landlords and realtors through our Smart Landlord program for placements. Ongoing prevention programs to assist with the rental assistance, and then also to work with legal aid and FRLs for the eviction cases and provide the assistance needed. Along with that, we are working with our HUD team to make sure that we have a real-time data on a daily basis that where the activities are happening for our homeless population, and then we engage. With that, I will pass over to Jonathan.
Thank you, Taruna. So again, in addition to the external partners that you typically hear us talk about, the internal partners and the collaboration that we have, whether it's through HED, facilities, community services, planning, zoning, and building, those partnerships remain strong as we work to create new and preserve existing housing. So as it relates to new housing, here's a project that the Board of County Commissioners approved using the home ARP dollars, where we assisted Vita Nova constructing 12 units for the youth that have transitioned out of foster care, but they are unsheltered. Additionally, with regards to projects, here is a rehab project that the county participated with Gulfstream Goodwill on a 9-unit multifamily property located in Lake Worth Beach. And as the board is aware, a number of different programs that we continue to administer, some that are key in preserving existing housing, whether it is our repair programs, our prevention programs, or even our rehab programs. Those programs continue to be active and fully utilized. And then we have the programs that will assist in creating new units, whether they're rental or home ownership, from impact fees to developer programs to our housing bond program, which we'll talk about in a little while, as well as the HIP funds, the ad valorem funds that the board has awarded us over the past few years. Okay. And Isami.
Thank you, Jonathan. Facilities development and operations assist community services and housing and economic development with infrastructure tools that involve county-owned property. We have worked with our colleagues in the development and construction of the Lewis Center, Program REACH, Belglade Intake Center, Melissa's Place, and the Central County Housing Resource Center. We have also assisted, along with the West Palm Beach Housing Authority, in the development of transitional housing in the form of Prosperity Village cottage homes. We are currently actively engaged in what we call the infill housing project. The county has approximately 50 small acreage county-owned parcels for which we have developed model drawings to build homes that then HED can place in the market for qualified families. Design and permitting for the first 10 properties has been completed. We had 2 construction managers at risk bid them out. Unfortunately, the bids came back higher than what we expected. So we are currently trying to explore other mechanisms to deliver on that project. In coordination with HED, we have a request for proposals currently advertised to select a developer for the project title Brooks Subdivision, and the proposals are due May 9th. We also have an RFP pending issuance, which will make available 2 county-owned parcels for construction of new housing. One of the parcels is the one on Okeechobee Boulevard, and the other one sits across the newly built Canyon Branch Library. Commissioners, through this presentation, we have aimed to provide you a thorough overview of every tool we currently have in our toolbox, be it on the services side or on the infrastructure side. We now would like to present 2 additional tools for your consideration. The first additional tool is hotel conversions. This strategy entails, as you know, acquiring existing hotels that are available for sale and converting them for the provision of supportive housing. It carries capital costs in the form of real estate acquisition and building renovation. And I must take this opportunity to emphasize precisely that with hotel conversions, you will always be considering older buildings. That is, newer hotels will not be on the market for conversion. But furthermore, I will argue that acquiring newer hotels will not be fiscally advisable, as the county will be paying for a level of finishes that and amenities not typically required for supporting housing. In a nutshell, all hotel conversion opportunities will require a capital investment for renovations, the magnitude of which will be a function of the condition of the facility. Therefore, the key will be to find buildings that have been well maintained and are in good condition. Ensuring that we have thorough condition assessments will then be an essential step for staff to recommend acquisition. This tool, as you can imagine, carries an ongoing operational cost, which is typically handled through ad valorem funds, grants, and recurring partnerships with non-for-profits and third-party providers. It has the advantage that it gives the county a fairly expeditious time frame for delivery. That is, no design, permitting, and construction is required because it's a building that is already in place. For sake of comparison, delivering a new facility for on county-owned land could take anywhere from 3 to 4 to 5 years from start of design to start of operations. And that is obviously without considering externalities such as hurricanes, legal challenges, and supply chain disruptions. The recently approved La Quinta acquisition that was approved by the board 2 weeks ago is the first hotel conversion opportunity that this board has pursued. The second additional strategy that has been identified for consideration by the board is the mini cottages, and that is basically the installation of small pre-manufactured residential structures. This initiative will carry capital costs to the extent that design for site adaptation will be required, and real estate along with the mini cottages will need to be acquired. Similar to hotel conversions, this tool carries as well an ongoing operational cost, which is typically handled through local funds, grants, and recurring partnerships with non-for-profits and third-party providers. As a benefit, it provides the potentially reduced costs of construction costs when compared to standard construction approaches. Our goal behind this slide was to help this board better assess the options that it has in front of it for consideration. We wanted to summarize potential costs to the best of our abilities. As it shows, the reality is that actual costs will need to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis and will be a function of the infrastructure and services to be provided. If I may take you back to when we brought La Quinta to this board, at the time it was approved, we estimated the cost per unit to be approximately $7,000 for the provision of maintenance and utilities. Hence why that number is reflected on the estimated cost for hotel conversions and provided as a reference for mini cottages. Note that we intentionally left blank the cell for facility services as it relates to homeless shelters. Based on our experience, the cost per square foot will be a function of the facility's layout and occupancy. As a general reference set costs, we can expect them to be in the range from $9 to $13 per square foot. These commissioners then lead us to the end of our presentation. We would like to request direction as to which tools we should continue to utilize. Are there any additional initiatives that the board would like us to consider, or are there any initiatives that the board would like us to discontinue? That concludes staff presentation, and as usual, we will gladly take questions as this board deems it appropriate.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. You said you're going back out to RFP on on those infill projects. I'm curious as to what was, or did you not get any response, or was it you just?
We got responses. We actually went through a construction manager at risk, and the challenge we had is that the price that came back was too high, Commissioner.
What was that?
It was, depending on the location, and we had some in the western communities between $500,000 and $600,000 for construction.
So, I mean, my understanding, these are disparate properties. They don't get any kind of economies of scale. I mean, other than potentially ordering some of the materials together. I'm not sure that, I mean, it's you guys going to go back out again, but I'm not certain that, just based on how these projects are implemented and so forth, that you're going to, unless you change something in the design or something that may
So two things
lower
that
the cost.
I would like to share with you, if I may. We initially grouped the properties in groups of 5, okay? Hoping that the construction managers will be able to generate some level of economies by working on several properties at the same time. We have now decided, trying to reduce the overall cost, we have decided to do a hard bid and removing basically that additional fee that comes from coordination done by the construction manager. It will not take it down to 50%, right? And I want to be realistic on that, but we do hope to reduce it 10, 15% to a number that we can recommend to this board.
Is there any reason why you're not considering manufacturing or prefabbed housing?
We did at some point through the design, and we have 2 architects that work on the drawings. We actually challenged them to identify better technologies, and both of them came back with a recommendation that we should adhere on this product to the typical construction. But it was thoroughly reviewed by the 2 firms that we had on board.
Do you know, excuse me, do you know why was it for resale value? Was it?
It was basically a concept of return on investment and their ability to guarantee the product, keeping in mind that this is a property that the county will sell, right? So that's how we started the design process. We told them we need to remain at an affordable workforce level, okay? So we need you to explore how to deliver at a lower cost. And I will tell you, the first 2 or 3 meetings were just centered on that, and they came back with a recommendation saying, let's do standard CMU. We have looked at the drawings very closely, and I think internally as a group, we feel that there's nothing to value engineer from those drawings. They are, in all honesty, very plain base level provision of housing. To remove anything from the design will be a disadvantage to the families we're trying to help.
And did you at all consider any of the housing trust models as another way to reduce costs?
We are in that process, not yet, but we are trying to explore how to further reduce the costs. And the other thing we're doing is reaching out to non-for-profits to see if they have the ability to build it at a lower cost than what we can through our contractors.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you so much. Well, I'm glad we're doing this, Ms. Baker, because the first order, maybe the second or third order of government, is to house the most vulnerable. And I know it costs money. How much have we received so far, Mr. Brown, in grants from our federal partners for housing, specifically for housing, sir?
Annually receive approximately $9 million from HUD, and then we receive.
I'm sorry,
Annually, we receive approximately $9 million from HUD, and that's through CDBG, Home, and our ESG program. And we receive, it varies from year to year, but anywhere between 9 to 12 million from the state in our SHIP program.
And how about from our federal partners, from Lois Frankel's office, Brian Mast, all the other Moskowitz?
We received this past year an allocation from Congresswoman Sheriffless McCormick of $2.25 million.
I know, I have that check.
Okay.
Don't have it, but I saw it was here. But how about Congresswoman Lois Frankel?
Housing Economic Development has not received anything. I'm not sure about community services.
Yeah, we received $1 million for our medical respite program, which we are adding 8 beds in Lewis
$1
Center.
million from Congresswoman Lois Frankel. And Brian Maskowitz? No. Not Brian Maskowitz,
or-
but, yes,
Or Jared Moskowitz.
yes, him too.
We haven't received any.
I don't think we've
Nothing?
received anything.
Okay. And Brian Mast's office has not sent us any money for housing. The reason I ask is that I've contacted these offices, and their first question is, what have you done with the money we've given you? So let me research this a little more, and I'll meet with you personally, all right? And now, with the monies that we've received from HUD, from SHIP, from the state, and from our congressional partners, have we built any housing for the homeless?
Yes, ma'am, and I can back up. 2 of the projects that we showed here, let me back up a little bit. One was Vita Nova.
I was there at the opening, sir. That's not for the homeless. I'm talking about, can a homeless person live there at that place?
If they're an unsheltered youth, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have built, was there Vita Nova for, those are nice houses. Those were nice.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. And about how much is that do we spend? And I'm sure that Vita Nova is a wonderful program. And do you have any, and I'm sure you're prepared for this because it was on the agenda, how much are we spending per unit for an unsheltered youth? Now, Vita Nova is a nonprofit.
Vita Nova is a nonprofit.
Excellent program.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Vita Nova is a nonprofit who focuses in on those youth that have aged out of
I know,
foster
that's
care.
wonderful, right. So how much do we spend per unit, per apartment for the child?
Okay. I'll see if we have that answer. That's not, as developers apply for the competitive funding that the county makes available, if they target an unsheltered population, then we have those projects. So this would be one, and then the other one was an acquisition of a house project where Gulfstream Goodwill was going to serve low income families. Again, that also creates an opportunity. It just depends on what a developer applies for when the county makes funding available, and not all projects are for unsheltered.
Can we make them for unsheltered, Mr. Brown?
So the unsheltered are, developers that are targeting unsheltered are able to apply for the dollars. The fact that they don't apply shares with me that they're probably still trying to identify all the funding necessary to bring a project together, or something with the costs of doing it, but they are always open and welcome to apply.
So I go back to my original question. How many roofs do we have for the numbers that we identified as unsheltered? How many roofs have we built or worked on for our unsheltered?
So over the past 2 years, these would be 2 of the projects that I could identify that is part of that. But again,
So we
that's
have a
just coming.
nine unit, it's not up yet, but it's coming up. 9 units?
So you got the 9 units for that particular project that are targeting low-income renters, and then you also
No,
have...
unsheltered, not low income. Unsheltered, sir.
So the challenge is that we have some that are working that are unsheltered that would qualify as well. So that's why we kind of say if they're...
I'm talking about the 5 people I see on the streets every time I drive to work. They're not working. They're sleeping on the streets off of I-95, Okeechobee here. do we have any provisions for those unsheltered sleeping on the streets?
Commissioner, this starts to go into what community services is providing. HED is really concentrating on the building of the structures with the dollars that are available, and then community services is managing more, placing people in beds. We do have a total of 1,649 units that are available for those who are unhoused, with a
So we have
total of
1,000, I'm sorry. Thank you for that, Dr. Fields. We have 1,965 roofs.
1,649 units and 2,361 beds.
So we have units built for the homeless, for the unsheltered today.
Yes.
Oh, good. Where are they?
We've got our Housing Resource Center.
No,
the
I'm not,
center.
I'm going to stop this conversation because I'm just going to get frustrated. I like you folks, and I don't want to embarrass anybody. But I know a couple of facts. We don't have one roof for a homeless person today. We will talk to them, and we have transitional beds, although there's none available today. They're all taken. We feed them. We feed folks. Nobody goes hungry, but we don't have a roof. And you have, Ms. Tammy Fields, you have all the manufacturers that I've given you, and I'm getting them today, right now, that can build a house from steel that has been, it's a Florida company, and I'm not going to give its name because I won't give any advertisements, but it's ready to do business with this county. It builds steel houses, fire resistant, hurricane resistant, $15,000 on the ground. So will you give me a commitment that you will work with these different companies going all over the country, that you will at least speak to them, listen to them? I'll send you the pictures today that we can put mini houses, Florida company today on the ground to house an individual, anything from 500 square feet up.
And that is the purpose of today's
Good,
agenda
okay.
item, is to ask the board direction if the board wishes for us to pursue the mini cottages as one of the tools in our toolbox.
This is not a mini cottage. Okay, we've discussed mini cottages, and there's a lot of folks here who don't like them. I'm talking about a mini house from a Florida company. Will you accept a commitment to at least review these so that they can build them? They can build apartment buildings out of steel. These are reclaimed steel from a steel company here in the state of Florida. And they're ready to start in this county as they have in other counties throughout the state. And if I can have that commitment, that's fine, because we need to move forward with housing the folks who are sleeping on the streets. And if I can have that commitment from you, that's fine. I'll send them to you. Thank you very much.
Administrator Baker.
We will contact your office, follow up with you, and
I'll
get
send
that
it to you.
information.
Absolutely. I'll send it to you because people are listening. They're hearing what we're talking about. They're not talking about mini cottages. They're talking about reclaimed steel from old cars that have been junked here in Florida, and they manufacture housing or buildings or garages throughout the country, and the cost is reasonable, fire resistant and hurricane resistant on the ground. So if you just have that commitment, I'll send it to you this afternoon, and we
speak
can
with
look
them.
at it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I don't see any other lights on. I know we have some cards on this.
Cindy LaCourse Bloom, Suzanne Cabrera, Lisa, looks like Cantrell, and Anastasia Colas.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor, County Commissioner. Commissioners. My comments are in relation to the part of this presentation you haven't gotten to yet. It's on the sale pricing under the bond program. But do you want them now, or did you want to wait?
You know what, why don't we go ahead and finish the presentation, then we'll call the cards.
Okay,
Thank you. That would be the second part of this. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much. Let's do the for sale housing bond loan program.
Can we get the quick version?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So today, we're going to be seeking direction from the board regarding recommendations on how to set the for sale pricing or max sales price for the housing bond loan program. Wanted to provide you with just some context over what has been occurring in housing and economic development since 2020 with regards to acquisition projects, rehabilitation, construction, and our mortgage assistance programs. Also working with PZNB with regards to workforce housing, I wanted to put up the chart which shows the max sales prices in the workforce housing program because that is currently the Mod 2. Third category is currently the max sales price in workforce housing, which has generated the conversation today regarding the housing bond max sales price. Also providing some context with regards to construction costs. Two different for sale projects that we're looking at now, Davis Commons, and we're only looking at construction costs, not land value, not soft costs. With the construction costs, you're looking at about $377 a unit. If we factored in land and we factored in soft costs, you'd be over $500,000 a unit. Villa Solana, $317 just construction. If you factored in the other costs, you'd be at over $400,000 a unit. And then what we're seeing in our first mortgage programs, which again is setting a little context, we are seeing an average of a $354,000 sales price, with the top sales price being at $450,000. And so as we come today, we wanted to present to the board three different options to seek your guidance and direction on. We were looking at using an index. The Florida Housing Finance Corporation sets the max average sales price in the county. Currently, it's at $636,000. When working with the nonprofit collaborative group, what they recommended was, let's look at 80% of the Florida housing number. Factoring in or figuring that 20% of the project would be land costs, we wanted to focus in on just construction costs and use that to help set the max sales price. And so the 80% option would give us a max price of $509,000 roughly. If the board decided on a 75% as max sales price or 70%, you see the respective numbers. What we also provided to you was you're good, Vice Mayor. What we also provided to you was the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, the PITI payment on these types of loans. And you can see where those principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payments are. And then what does a household what sort of income do they need to make in order to qualify? And you see that. And then you see our assumptions with regards to interest rates, 30-year term, down payment, taxes, insurance, etc. And so based on the qualifying income, you'll see for AMIs, really what sort of AMI category you need to be in order to qualify for a sales price of those levels, either 509, 477, or the 445. So, and one caveat to the workforce housing program for sales, the housing bond for sale program goes up to 140% AMI. And so today we're seeking the board's direction. Do you like any of these three options for the for sale? If so, we're going to put it in the housing bond allocation process, which comes back to you in May for final approval. And that's it, Mayor.
Commissioner Powell, then Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that looking at these prices, it's my intention and belief that the best way to address the issues that people are dealing with regarding housing is to make sure that people are able to purchase homes. Even at 70%, and I know these are some adjustments, and if you can elaborate on programs that will be able to help in terms of assistance, first-time home buyers, what the amounts will be. When you look at the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance of a home that's 70% of AMI at $445,000, you're still looking at $3,500 a month, and the individuals, or I guess the household, would need to make $121,000 a year to be able to cover that. That's two people making at least $60,000 apiece. What other programs or what other supplements would be included with that to be able to, I guess, guarantee the opportunity for housing? And then when we look at these units for $445,000 at the 70% and to the 80%, are we looking at 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, 3 bedroom? I guess not 1 bedroom, but 2 bedroom, 3 or 4?
So great question, Commissioner. So the size of the units would absolutely be based on the proposal that we receive for the housing bond. If the board has a desire for a specific number of bedrooms, again, we can always write that within the RFP, and that will help guide us there. Part of the reason why we're bringing these is because what we're seeing on our first mortgage loan program, although the average sales price in there was $354,000, 40% of the homes that we assisted are over $400,000, with the top being at $450,000. So while the numbers here are definitely large numbers, it's what we're seeing in the housing market, at least for those that qualify for affordable workforce housing in Palm Beach County.
Okay. When they qualify for that first-time homebuyers program, what type of assistance are they getting? How much assistance are they getting?
Okay. So for our first-time homebuyers program, we can provide up to $100,000 in down payment assistance. And if we are providing a first mortgage, then we can provide a first mortgage. The board has approved us with a max interest rate of up to 4%. We don't always have that program open. We were fortunate that we had some dollars left over, and we were able to use that tool, first mortgage loan program tool that's in our toolbox, and we were able to help some homeowners or home buyers.
Mr. Brown, in terms of first mortgage, these prices that we're looking at with the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and the $445,000 to $509,000, are those, is the pity based on the first mortgage program, or would it be based on the average mortgage or the average cost of insurance and interest?
It'll be based on what the industry costs are. So right now, we're factoring in a 6.75% rate because that's where you probably get it at the bank level. We're factoring in what we anticipate property taxes, insurance to be, HOA or condo, as well as flood insurance if you're in a flood zone.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Can you just explain, so in order to get a home at the, or get the price of a home at that 70% level versus at the 80% level, what's the, I assume there's a buy down that we would have to, that's the county making that buy down in the cost, and are we making the buy down starting at the 636?
That's a great question, Commissioner. So we would provide down payment assistance, the normal program that the board has in place, where we can provide up to $100,000 in down payment assistance. That down payment assistance can be used for closing costs or any of those type of costs related to that particular project. And that's typically what it is that we're typically doing, typically what we're seeing. And that would hopefully bring down the pity payment if we can bring down that final total loan amount.
So when you calculate, and just it's getting into the weeds a little bit, but since you're here, I can ask you the question. So then the taxes and insurance are going to be based on the 636 price, or in this case, to get it down to 445, the value of the house would have been at 5.5.
So great question, Commissioner. Let me clarify. So the 636 is just, that's the number the state provides to us, and every year it'll adjust. And they'll say, if you're using SHIP funds, you cannot assist a house whose value exceeds that. And so what we wanted to use that as is kind of an index to say, all right, so if the board wants us to do more loans or for sale projects in the housing bond program, we'll use, or we're recommending using that as an index, but what percentage of that do you feel is affordable and that our buyers can afford? Is it the 80% of that Florida housing number, 75%, 70, or maybe you have another percentage? But what we're trying to do is to make sure that developers who want to build for sale product are not building the homes and they are in trouble trying to sell them.
But if the cost of building the home, as we're seeing, we just had that conversation, we're seeing the homes coming in, at $500,000 to $600,000 without the land cost, and then you factor in your land costs at another 20%. Let's just say they're able to build them at $500,000, so you got a $600,000 property. Even if we say we want it at 70%, the numbers don't match, even if you give them the $100,000 down payment assistance.
Yes, sir. So what I would say is that the nonprofit developers who are bringing us projects have brought forth projects where the construction costs are not as high as someone may charge the county. And so what the thought is that now, okay, we can build using housing bond. We don't need to ask the county for a developer subsidy. We can build, we can sell, and the only thing we would need is down payment assistance for the buyer.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for this presentation. It did dawn on me that you were asking us to suggest one of the three options you've provided.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the advantages of going with the 80% versus a 70%?
The 80%, the challenge would be is that we're not seeing buyers coming through our programs that could afford $500,000. And so we are seeing buyers that are closer to the 70%. And if we're providing down payment assistance, maybe the 75%. But again, we wanted in transparency to present what was given to us from our nonprofit partners.
And I do like the idea of the down payment assistance, because I think that is a huge hurdle for most. So that part of this I greatly appreciate. And I really don't have any objection to even the 70%. I am happy that you listen to the board. I think we are trying to take steps towards making home ownership a top priority versus just a lot of rentals. So, and I think this is a good start to that. So I thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
And I'm good with option 3, but I'll wait to see and hear what my fellow commissioners have to say.
Yes, ma'am.
And the deed restrictions on these would be, again?
The deed restriction we do is a 30-year, and if an individual lives in the home for 30 years, then that loan is forgiven. If they sell within the 30 years, the money comes back in the program, and we get to help other individuals.
Commissioner Flores.
I was going to recommend that we listen to public comments, and then I would like to make my remarks after
Do you have any questions for staff?
their comments.
Okay, thank you. Do you have questions? Sure. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Yeah, just based on your last comment. So when they, because the homes are the developer will come in using bond money. So once they put a mortgage on that property, then the proceeds will go back into the loan fund. Is that correct? The bond fund.
With the bond funds automatically, yes, sir. Our bond funds, once they sell the property, we automatically get the bond funds back.
The $100,000 is dependent on whether they stay in there 30 years or not.
The $100,000 would come from a different program, whether it's SHIP or whether it's home, and then those particular dollars would have a 30-year affordability period, and then those dollars would come back into whatever source we use, SHIP, home, or another ad valorem source.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I think we're ready for cards and timers.
All right, try this again. Cindy LaCourse Blum, Suzanne Cabrera, Lisa Cantrell, and Anastasia, it looks like Coles?
Hi, good afternoon again. Cindy LaCourse Bloom. I'm Executive Director of the Community Land Trust of Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast, but I'm actually here as board member of Partners for Housing Palm Beach County. So that's an organization that's comprised of 13 nonprofits that do development in Palm Beach County. We're actually recommending, I'll try to make this kind of quick, but we're recommending price option 1 or price option 2, which is the 80% or the 75%. But what we're really asking for is flexibility, because this is just one flat sales price. That's the maximum. It doesn't mean everyone's going to try to build at the maximum. It just allows us flexibility, because in certain situations, there will be purchase assistance. Maybe in another situation, there'll be some development subsidy, or maybe development subsidy with a city purchase assistance. And what has to happen is that the sale price has to cover the cost. We know that we have to find buyers that are income eligible, so we take that into consideration. We know they're only going to be able to get a mortgage where it's 30% of their income on the front end and then so much on the back end. So we recognize that, and then we know we have to fill the gap, but we need that sale price to be able to cover the cost to develop, and then we fill in the difference. So that's really what we're asking for, the flexibility to. I don't know, if it helps to maybe make a nonprofit sale price strategy, and then maybe if there's concern that, they'll be done in different ways with different types of developers. But for us, that's really what the nonprofits are asking for, is flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores, your light is on, and Vice Mayor Baxter, your light is still on. Okay.
No, Suzanne here?
Suzanne Cabrera? Okay, thank you.
Lisa?
Hello, my name is Lisa Cantrell. I was here at the last meeting, and I am homeless. I'm an RN of 61 years, and I worked 40 years of my life. I have no debt, no credit cards, and no mortgage, and I was displaced by the Palm Beach County court system on a mistaken claim of lien that got processed as a mortgage. However, getting aside that, I am not going away. And I'm determined to get very involved in community service and to move forward with not only population health, but to make this county board of commissioners accountable for the people that they are supposed to serve. I speak for the people who can't help themselves. We have about 45% to 55% of Palm Beach County over the age of 65. And probably about 15% of those are either mental illness, Alzheimer's, drugs, and other issues that are contributing to the homeless population. However, they've accounted, thank goodness, for 2 mental health professionals to assist, but there is they canceled the mental illness beds, facility care for these people to help them take care of themselves and what resources are available to them. Besides that, there are other options besides a $400,000 or $500,000 home. Menards, which is MENARD, can build a 900 square foot home with labor and materials for about $90,000 to $180,000, with everything pre-cut and delivered on site. And they do special projects and discounts for counties, and they get all the funding, and they do that. And they've done it before. They've done it in Santa Monica, California. I've worked for the California Department of Health, where thousands of people have been housed in what Maria Sachs was talking about, in those ADU units that are steel. I lived in one myself during the pandemic, where I was helping the homeless population and working with them specifically. Those numbers for the homeless population, I could tell you, are way off. I am living homeless partially by choice. And I'm doing surveys and studies. And right here in Palm Beach County, I was offered a bus, one-way ticket out of the county to get out of your hair. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And people who think I'm not in their jurisdiction, this is a not only a community, but a national problem. It is not going away. And until we hold our County Board of Commissioners accountable for every single dime and where it goes, and retroactively and retrospectively hold them accountable to the numbers. $270 million to house 40 homes and have them pay for it is unacceptable.
Anastasia?
Hello. Similar to the other commenters, in regards to the homeless crisis that we see in the United States, I believe there have been a lot of attempts at trying to fix homelessness, but for some reason, it's never solved. And in certain states, not necessarily Florida, but if you look at California, they spend more than any other state, but it's everywhere, almost. So I have actually been looking into setting up a more pragmatic solution, and I agree with the sentiment of the speaker before me, where homelessness is not being properly addressed. And this is also part of the reason why I was interested in the cyber police thing, because I think there are certain problems that aren't addressed well. For example, you might have a program that's great and it's accessible and it looks like it's doing something good, but you still have all these people on the streets. And sometimes they aren't aware of the program, they're not able to get there, and there's all of these other issues that seem to not come into play or into the framework when these programs are made. And that's another reason why I wanted cyber police to be a thing.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll close this portion of the public comment. We actually have two requests from staff for the board. One would be the first request, which was how the first half of the presentation. You talked about the tools in the toolbox, and then there were two. You wanted to know about what we wanted to do about hotels and what we wanted to do about, I know you put mini cottages here, but smaller homes, I would say would be the question. So I guess I would entertain some questions about hotel conversions and mini homes. I have Commissioner Flores, Commissioner Weiss, Vice Mayor Baxter, Commissioner Sachs.
Am I going first? So I want to start off with the homeless topic. I think the tools that we have utilized are good. I don't have any issues with the tools that we have and that we have utilized. We are currently spending, and this is not including the La Quinta, which is not really homeless, but I just lost that number. We're probably budgeting around $39 million towards the homelessness population. I think that was the chart, the PowerPoint or the spreadsheet that I had received. And if I remember, it was around $16 million that come from ad valorem dollars that we are utilizing taxpayers' dollars to work or to do this work. And I believe there's around $24 million that come from state or federal program. I think we're investing a lot of money into this particular issue that we're dealt with. So when I hear comments that we're not doing enough, that could be debated. I mean, I think we're doing what we possibly can with the resources that we currently have at hand. What I get concerned about is continuing to expand upon that budget, especially in the economic reality that we live in today. I don't know if anybody's tracking what's happening in the U.S. or the world, but the R word is being used. The recession word is being used very often recently. So to me, making more of an investment in the near future is a little bit of a hesitation right now, especially not knowing what could be cut from federal programs coming down and what could possibly happen if there is a recession. How will that impact our local economy? Will people be out of jobs? Will people struggle again? 2008, we went through a housing crisis. In 2020, we went through COVID. These are things that we don't expect, but they happen. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is that at this point in time, I think we keep the programs that we have, we hold pat, and we see where we're at in 6 months, which is also the reason that I don't want to go purchasing another hotel. The thing about when we do the work, we provide wraparound services, which means that it's going to cost more money on an ongoing basis. So it's not just building a building and letting them live there. It's the wraparound services and all the money that's going to cost to provide those services. And I firmly believe that we should do that. But it is going to take a toll on ad valorem dollars. So I'm a little standoffish right now because I don't know what's going to happen over the next 6-12 months in the U.S. and in our economy. I hope and I pray that nothing happens and we rebound and everything goes back to normal. But unfortunately, I don't have that for certain. So for us to start allocating more dollars into this program right now, I'm a little hesitant about. Do I think the tools are good tools? Absolutely. Would I make more of an investment at this time? I would probably not. I would see where we're at in 6 to 12 months. So that's my idea here. Now, I know we don't want to hear this. I know that we want to put people in houses, but we can't even consider opening a shelter when it's 40 degrees. So to me, that's a low-laying, something that we should do. I think it gets cold out there. I think we should open a shelter. And we're talking about building 10, 15, 20 homes for unsheltered, but for people that are unsheltered, but yet we don't even have a shelter where people can go to on an ongoing basis. To take a shower, to have a bed to sleep for a night, to get out of the climate. So I know that word is a lot of people don't want to hear it, but I'm a fan of having a shelter. And I know that's not part of the tools. And in regards to what's the other part of this?
The option 1, 2, or 3, 80, 75, or 70%.
Yeah, option. I'm willing to go on the high end and the reason I'm saying that is because we've had this bond program open for over 2 years. And we've only had one project come before us that's for sale. And do we recall what they were at? What percentage they were at when they came? And I know the land was given to them.
They're operating at an 80 AMI.
80?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a different plan.
Yeah.
It's the community land trust model.
Right. So I'm okay with the 80. I would like to see more in the pipeline, and if that's going to restrict developers from coming in because we set it at 70, then I know that Commissioner Powell had mentioned this before. I would like to see more for sale side of the house. So, thank you.
Commissioner, if I could report a little bit of good news on the project you just mentioned. That's expected to go to closing in a couple of weeks by the end of the month. And when the groundbreaking is scheduled, you will all be invited. So that will be the first of our bond projects that will be going to closing.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. As it relates to the first question in terms of the tools, I am fine with continuing to look at hotels. They do provide a reasonable option, and as we saw with in the case of La Quinta, it was an option for seniors and veterans, and so for other people it may be an option as well, and we can get them quickly. And then the other, I'm also good with the manufactured prefab sort of. I was down in Broward yesterday. I went to a vendor, I think they're Plaid, I think is the name of it, and they were showing me some of their newer models that are stackable. They can go up to 3 stories with them, and so they can make a really good use of land to put them on. So you can, they sit on top of one pad or one set of whatever posts or whatever. I don't know the technical term, but anyways, something. I mean, and they were reasonable accommodations, small but suitable for comfortable. Somebody could be comfortable, or 2 people could be comfortable living in one of those units, and they vary in size. So I think we were looking at as it relates to the maximum after hearing from was it Cindy? I would, in understanding this is the maximum, I would be good to go to the 80% as well and set the maximum there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Commissioner Flores. I'm not in favor of going after hotels. I'm fine with 80% if that's where my fellow commissioners want to go at that max amount, but I did want to get some clarification. The housing bond allocation process that we're putting in place for the sale, those dollars are already there, right? We are not talking about expending more dollars?
No, that is correct. We do have dollars there, and our plan is to bring back the housing bond allocation process with some changes that you've already initiated with some others, and we wanted to get some direction on this particular thing. So yes, the dollars are already there. We just wanted to make the tweaks that the board was asking for to the housing bond allocation process.
Right, so if that max 80% gives more flexibility, that's preferable. I do agree with that. So, and then lastly, it did mention there are other programs. I guess we have down payment assistance programs. That's not coming out of the housing bond allocation.
No, it's not.
That is a totally separate fund for dollars.
That's
now,
correct.
do we know how much is in that fund?
We are coming with new SHIP funds. We have our purchase assistance program, which comes out of our SHIP funds, and then we also have our first time home buyers program, which is coming out in the beginning of May. And I can't recall, I don't know, Carlos or Jeff, do you know how much we have? Dorina is here. She can tell us.
Take your time.
Good afternoon. We have $3 million allocated for the purchase assistance program.
$3 million, and then the max that any one person can get is up to 100,000?
Correct.
Thank you for that.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Now, the 100,000 will be based on 20%, 20% for a $500,000 home, or is there another formula?
I'm just going to let her.
It's up to 100,000 per household. It has nothing to do with the formula or the cost of the property.
So if the house is $100,000, they can get a $100,000 loan?
No. It has to do with their debt to income ratio and actually how much they need to make the house affordable.
Okay.
So
thank
everyone
you.
don't get 100,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What they're eligible for through underwriting, basically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to be clear that at the 80% level, it does not prevent the ability to develop ownership units at less than that cost.
No, it's the maximum.
And the maximum currently is set at the 636,806 by Florida Housing Finance. So this, if we were to do at the 80%, which is 509, that would still be over $100,000 reduction in the what's allowable for companies or developers to use the housing bond loan program to develop units.
Right, Florida Housing Finance Corporation sets it at 636 with the developer, with the nonprofit developers, with their recommendation of 80%. And we looked at that 509 as a potential maximum if you wanted to set it at that rate instead of going up to the 636.
Currently, the housing bond program has the maximum set at the, based on the workforce housing, not on this house. So currently, the max on the workforce housing, on the housing bond program is set at 343,200.
Okay.
We're just changing what we reference as to how we set the max.
Follow up.
Sure.
At the 70%, do you have an indication or a projection of how many nonprofits would be able to participate versus at the 80% level? Do you know? No?
Not really.
Yeah, we do not. Go ahead, Tammy.
No, the nonprofits that have spoken at the various forums that we've held have expressed more of a preference at the 80% for the flexibility level.
They have. Okay. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. I'd be comfortable at the 80%. As for the hotel conversions, we have one. Let's see what happens with that before we add any more to the conversation. And as for small homes, I mean, if there is somebody out there that can deliver a small home for $100,000, which we haven't seen, so I mean, anybody can say anything, but until it's actually proof on the ground that that's what can happen, we'll just keep continuing to try to find those sources that can do that. So I'm okay with that as being an additional tool in our toolbox. I think that's what you were looking for. Our considerations. I don't think the hotel conversion is one that anybody's interested in moving forward with again until we see what happens with this one. And, you know, if we can somehow find a manufacturer that can do smaller homes for a reasonable price, of course we're going to look at that. So that would be our, I think, it's looking for, you're looking for direction. So Commissioner Sachs, what would you like to add to that?
I agree with you, absolutely. And I agree with my colleagues on the 80%. And I agree with the issue on the, conversion of motels. We're just starting, and that's not for the homeless. And that's it. I agree with y'all.
Thank you. So you're looking for board direction. That doesn't necessarily mean a vote, but I think what you can hear from the consensus of the board is that hotels are really not on the table in the future. Let's see what happens with this one. The mini cottages are fine, and I think the board is at the 80%.
Thank you.
Okay.
So may I,
Sure.
Mayor, regarding the hotels, we had come to this board about a month ago with a request for authorization to engage in negotiations with the owner of the Old Ramada Hotel. So we're then putting that on a stop on that one until we figure how La Quinta goes, right, on the operational basis.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Dr. Colazo brings up a great point. I believe at the direction of the board, the administrator was encouraged to engage, and with the direction today, that would be a contradiction. I don't know. I think it would be in our best interest probably to continue to engage to find out what the results would potentially be. Not to say that we're in favor of moving forward with this, with the next hotel conversion, but to see, Commissioner Flores brought up the point, we don't know what 6 months from now looks like. We do know that things are globally, at least nationally, spiraling in a manner that we are not able to predict what tomorrow looks like. So I think it's, in my opinion, I think we should continue to engage for now and find out what the administrator can come back
Well,
with.
it was the direction of this board to go and do that. Thank you for the reminder. So I think after the Ramada, maybe no. But,
Understood.
Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Flores brings up a good point, so does Commissioner Powell. Issamin is so busy that let's finish La Quinta. And that's not for the homeless. That's for seniors and at a high price. We're paying a lot. So I'd like to see us, just what I think it was the Vice Mayor mentioned, let's see how it goes. We may be digging a hole here that has no end. So let's see how it goes with La Quinta before we engage her office and other hotels. I have been receiving emails from owners of other hotels who would love for us to buy them. I could give you a whole list, but she's got a lot on her plate. So, pardon me? You'd like one? We may all be living in one. So, anyways, I would go with our original direction that you mentioned to do the 80% and at least to see what La Quinta looks like. We put a lot of time, we put some money into it already, and let's see how that goes before we start looking at other hotels.
Well, I think Administrator Baker is probably going to chime in because we gave you direction to already start talking to the folks at the Ramada. It looks like it's a 3-3 split here on the hotel, which there isn't a consensus, obviously. But since we already have board directions to talk to the Ramada.
You want to vote on it?
No, we're just going to get information. So we have Administrator Baker, what did you want to add to that?
I just wanted to get clarification because we have begun discussions with the, regarding the hotel, starting to look at due diligence. You gave us direction.
We did.
So we need to know whether to follow up because we have engaged them or not. Should we complete the process because we can't move forward with it until we come back to this board anyway. So we're doing the due diligence and we would be able to bring that back to the board. At that point, I believe we would be in a position to give you a better idea of whether we recommend based on the structure, whatever else we're going to have to do, and then add some dollars as to how much it's going to cost to do the wraparound service and modifications to the facility itself.
Since the direction was to go and get the information, I mean, I can ask the rest of the board. We would be then changing our direction, something we seem to be doing lately, but I will ask the board their input on this. Commissioner Powell, your light is on.
Madam Mayor, I would recommend, it would be my opinion, that we should move forward. However, if you did want to take a vote, that way it's definitive, that way it's not, well, we thought and we anticipated and this person said this, that way it's done. We if it's a tie vote, then I guess what, tie goes, it doesn't happen, right?
Time means it wouldn't, the procedure wouldn't change.
It fails, right? Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Sachs?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my light on. Look, if y'all want to get information, I know who the owner is. Get information, find out how much it costs. In the meantime, let's not forget that when we gave you that direction, you were to come back with us with a status on La Quinta. So tell us all what's going on in La Quinta. We gave you information. We all know who owns that hotel, the Ramada. We all know he wants to move it, and I appreciate that. But when you come back, give us some information on what's going on in La Quinta in terms of the costs and in terms of our seniors and our veterans, low income, not unsheltered folks. Okay, Isami? I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
May I, Mayor, restate direction to see if I got this right? If I am following the board correctly, we are not to engage in the analysis of, for the time being. any additional hotels other than finishing the work we had already started in regards to the old Ramada, which we will bring back to this board to then receive further direction. So it's basically do not consider anything else other than the effort you already had underway, bring that to completion, and provide the information to us. Will that be
I will
accurate?
ask Commissioner Powell and Commissioner Weiss to make a motion and a second, and then we will put it on the record. Would that be okay? Okay. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion echoing what Dr. Collazo said, that we move forward on the Ramada, halt any other engagement with regard to additional hotels, and move forward as directed by the board previously on that particular issue. That is the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Sachs.
With a report as to what's going on in La Quinta, the status, if we could, Commissioner Powell, because if we're going to look at other hotels, that was part of the board direction, is to get a status of what's going on at La Quinta. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Powell? Or?
Commissioner Sachs, I think that would be okay. However, additionally, to add in, I don't know if that is germane to this particular, because we're talking about La Quinta, and I know that we did a separate item related to La Quinta. This would be based on the, what's the call?
The Ramada.
The Ramada. I don't have a problem with that. However, I do know that when we did La Quinta, we talked about the cost estimates, we talked about who would be going in there. I don't think we've closed on that yet. So I believe our direction is based on not coming back with a recommendation, just the engagement of this is what was found out. However, in addition to that, if that's what you'd like to add to this particular motion, I have no problem with that.
Appreciate it, because I think we discussed that when we gave the direction to staff to engage initial negotiations with La Ramada to also give us a status on La Quinta. So it sort of goes together. I don't think it'd be a problem. Thank you so much, Commissioner Powell.
So I have a motion from Commissioner Powell, and I have a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that motion carries 6-0. So you understand where we're going now. Okay, thank you. Laura Beebe, after all this time, we're finally on airports. And this is a reminder that item 5B1 was removed from the agenda. It has nothing to do with 5B2. So we're now going to talk about 5B2. And we do have cards on this, so we'll hear those after the presentation and if there's any questions from the board.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Laura Beebe. I'm the Airport Director. With me today is Assistant County Administrator Isame Ajala Collazo and Mike Jones from the County Attorney's Office. So in order to keep up with passenger demand and to elevate the overall customer service at PBI, we've started a multi-year modernization program, which includes the expansion of Concourse B, the creation of a post-security connection between Concourses A, B, and C, and the modernization of our concessions program. Due to the upcoming expiration of the current concession agreements, the department issued a request for proposals for 2 food, beverage, and retail concession agreements in May of last year to provide for the update of all restaurant shops and vending machines at PBI. The goal of the RFP was to build a modern, award-winning concessions program and to provide high-quality dining and retail experiences at the airport. This item provides for the award of one of the 2 concession packages, Package 2. Package 2 includes all concession units located on Concourse C, 3 pre-security concession units in various vending locations. 4 proposals were received for Package 2. The selection committee recommended the award of Package 2 to Paradis Lagardère at PBI LLC. Paradis Lagardère is one of the most well-regarded concessionaires in the industry, having just been named the best overall retailer by Airport Experience News for the 28th consecutive year in a row. Parodies has extensive experience in the operation of food, beverage, and retail concessions in more than 91 airports with more than 560 retail shops, 163 restaurants and bars, generating $1.2 billion annually in gross receipts. Parodies Palm Beach LLC is the current retail concessionaire at PBI, which includes 2 of the 3 proposed joint venture partners for the proposed agreement. The current agreement expires on April 1st, 2026. Parodies has proposed a joint venture which includes 25% airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise participation, with each ACDB having defined roles and responsibilities in the operation and management of the concession at PBI. The JV agreement provides for 5% participation by Tito Enterprises and 20% participation by SMP Concessions, a new joint venture partner. The joint venture agreement also provides Trendy Gourmet Foundation, Inc., with the option to become a joint venture partner upon the receipt of certification as an airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise. And I'd like to point out that the ACDB joint venture agreement that was required to be submitted with the RFP documents, and it has been reviewed by our consultants to ensure compliance with the FAA requirements. The new agreement provides for a transition period of approximately 3 years with a phased build-out of a new concession units. However, due to the fact that the selection committee is recommending the award to an existing partner, we may have the opportunity to extend the dates for certain units in that program in lieu of building temporary concessions, which may help to expedite that program. During the transition period, Parodies will pay a percentage of gross revenues with no minimum annual guaranteed payment. During the primary term, Parodies will be required to pay the greater of a minimum annual guarantee or a percentage of gross revenues. The minimum annual guarantee will escalate based on actual sales. Parodies propose the maximum percentages provided for in the RFP, a minimum capital investment of almost $15 million to be spent toward the development of new concessions, and a midterm capital investment of almost $5 million for the update and refurbishment of concessions during the term of the agreement. As part of the proposal, Parodies proposed a mix of popular, local, regional, national concepts and products. And this slide depicts the general location of the new concepts on Concourse C. 2 of the concepts proposed for Concourse C include Pistache, French Bistro, and Coastal Cass. Pistache is a popular local West Palm Beach restaurant that's been in operation since 2008, generating approximately $5 million in annual sales. Coastal Cass is a bar concept that includes a breakfast, lunch, and dinner menu. This is a rendering of the marketplace and bar proposed for the central area near the end of Concourse C, where the current CNBC and Blue 2O bar are located. The Verde Market will feature Pump House Coffee, a popular local coffee sold in Jupiter and West Palm Beach, and grab-and-go items from Panaterie, a local bakery and cafe. Grab-and-go items from Panaterie are currently sold throughout locations at the airport, and they are the hottest selling grab-and-go items at the airport. I would encourage you to try them if you have not already. In addition to the Verde Market, the concession unit will include a Vino Volo, which is considered one of the best airport bars in the industry and will feature wine cocktails, craft beers, and small bites. Parodies also proposed 3 new concepts to replace the Chili's on Concourse C, including Havana, 2J's, and Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Havana is an award-winning Cuban restaurant that's been in operation in West Palm Beach for more than 30 years and recognized by Palm Beach Post Best of Palm Beach County for 6 consecutive years, and by USA Today and Trip Savvy for the best Cuban sandwich. In addition to Havana, Parodies proposed Tropical Smoothie Cafe, a popular national concept, and 2J's, a popular New York deli-style restaurant founded in Palm Beach in 1981 with locations throughout Palm Beach County. In addition to new restaurant spaces, the program also includes new shopping opportunities at the Ocean Boulevard Collection and the Flagler Exchange. Ocean Boulevard will feature products from various local and regional vendors, including Calusa Waterware, Palm Beach Salt Company, Hoffman's Chocolates, Florida Scrub Soap, Loxahatchee Candle Company, just to name a few. Flagler Exchange, the retail concept, will provide for a wide variety of travel essentials, magazines and books, grab-and-go snacks, and unique souvenirs crafted by local artisans. In addition to Pump House Coffee, the program will also feature Starbucks, one of the most popular national coffee brands. So we're currently in the first phase of the terminal connector project, which will provide for the replacement of the existing skylight and demolition of the existing concessions located on the south side of the main terminal. Package 2 includes 3 units in the main terminal. 2 of the units, Worth Avenue Market and Dunkin' Donuts, will be located outside of the future secure connector, primarily to be used by employees, meters, greeters, passengers with a little bit extra time. The Turn, a PGA golf concept, will initially be located pre-security and will become a future post-security concession upon completion of the connector project. The Worth Avenue Market will feature grab and go from Panetterie, travel essentials, and gifts from a variety of local and regional vendors. In addition to Starbucks and Pump House Coffee, Perry's will also have a pre-security Dunkin' Donuts. And finally, the Turn has been proposed for the central area of the main terminal. The Turn will include a specialty retail shop with PGA branded products, as well as a full-service bar and restaurant. The Turn will also feature a full-swing golf simulator, allowing passengers to play on 84 world-class golf courses, including the PGA National, the home of the Cognizant Classic, and a Golden Tee PGA Tour Edition arcade game. The unit will become post-security upon completion of the connector project, making it the ideal destination for passengers with a little extra time. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Commissioner Powell, your light is on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Beebe, for the excellent presentation. A couple questions I have. The Turn is pre-security, and also the Worth Avenue Market are pre-security, but those will become post-security?
Yes.
After, at some point, they'll become post-security after the connection between 1 and 2?
So the current plan is to put a dividing wall where the column line exists between the north and south sides of the main terminal. Currently on the south side of the terminal, there's a large concessions mall. About 75% of our concessions are located in an area where nobody really wants to hang out because it's pre-security. So the plan is to make that side of the terminal post-security. It'll provide for a glass dividing wall. There's a general conceptual rendering that our consultants have provided. I'd like to be clear, though, we will be coming back to the board with an actual conceptual drawing for you to review for the design of the final connector to make sure that you're all comfortable with the direction that we're heading. Ultimately, this will also provide for the expansion of both security checkpoints on either side of the terminal, so that you'll be able to go from anywhere on Concourse A or B all the way to the end of Concourse C, or you can just hang out in the middle of the concourse, the main terminal at the Turn. We're also building a new common use lounge, and when I say we're actually not buying it. It'll be a third-party concessionaire who builds the new common use lounge. We currently have a lounge today. It's about 3,000 square feet. This will be more than 6,000 square feet of space. And as you probably already know, the lounge at the airport now, very, very busy. So this will provide a lot of space for passengers to be able to, spread out a little bit.
Thank you. Follow-up?
Sure.
You have a couple concepts: Ocean Boulevard Collection, Flagler Exchange, Verde Market, and I would even say Worth Avenue Market. Are those concepts already established local brands outside of the airport?
So the way the RP was written, it required that proposers provide national, local, or regional concepts that you can find on the street for certain locations, but not all locations. Market concepts, generally, you cannot find on the street. So they were allowed to do proprietary concepts, but we encourage strongly them to include local and regional products. Bars are kind of a similar thing, where you may or may not be able to find a standalone bar on the street that will work in an airport, because you also need to have, I'll give you an example. One of the concessionaires proposed a brewery, but you also need, when you have an airport bar, to have liquor and food. So there were concepts where we said we would really like to see local, national, regional. Some concepts, a retail shop, the type of shops that you have in the airport, for instance, the Flagler Exchange, that's really travel essentials. So every single one of the concessionaires came in with their own branded retail shop. The only thing somewhat close to that would be something like a 7-Eleven, or, you know, where you can get a large variety of different, you know, basic things that you need, which includes like medication and just things that you need when you travel, earphones, things like that.
Thank you. What about the Worth Avenue Market and the Verde Markets?
So both of those markets are internal concepts to Parodies, and again, what they propose to do is to bring in local and regional products.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Good afternoon. My understanding, I thought we were going to have we were going to choose two providers?
Yes, so one of the items was the early agenda item that was pulled for this meeting. That'll be coming back to the board hopefully at the May board meeting.
Sorry, I wasn't here. Was there an explanation given as to why they're not traveling together?
So they are completely two different packages. Package one is for Concourse B and a portion of the main terminal and some vending locations. They are two totally separate concession agreements, and they can stand alone, so they don't necessarily need to travel together as far as board approval on the same day. So we went ahead and moved forward with this one because this package was ready. The partners for the other concession agreement needed to have some additional conversations amongst themselves, so we delayed that until the May meeting.
Okay, I mean, I think for me, one of the things, I mean, it would be nice to see everything in its totality, because that's when we met, that's what we saw, and now I only see a portion of it, and now I don't know what the plan is, what's coming next, and how this all is going to, what the entirety of the concessions at the airport are going to be.
So it is our intention to bring back the proposal that we have already showed you earlier in our individual meetings. I can't present the other one today, so the only other option would be to delay this item until we bring forward the other contract in May. I'd prefer not to do that, and the reason that I prefer not to do that is because we're trying to keep our concessions program moving along with our continuing construction. With the connector project, we're intending on starting the Skylight project. It will be next hurricane season. So we'd like to get at least one of the firms moving forward with getting their building permits, starting their phasing plan, so that we are able to replace some of the pre-security units before we demo all of the pre-security units that will become post-security, because there will be a limited number of concession opportunities available in the main terminal when that project starts. So I'd like to see it move forward, but there is an option to go ahead and continue it to another meeting.
One of the concerns that I had, and I shared, there were a couple I shared with you, which was the lack of really expressing the entirety of Palm Beach County with these concessions. And so I don't have everything in front of me. Maybe they're going to change. I don't know. But what I saw was everything was very centric to central Palm Beach County, and we had very little in terms of, you know, representing other portions of the county. Because I know when I met with everybody who was you know, wanted to be propose this, I wanted to make sure that, you know, they represented all of Palm Beach County, and that, you know, from, you know, all the way up to Cuesta and Jupiter and in that area, down to Boca and Delray, and out west to Wellington and out into the Glades area. I mean, we have such an interesting and nice community, but very different in terms of a lot of the brands that are available and that. And so that was something, and so it's hard to, without totality, to see that. So that's, and I know we had that conversation. I still, I think it's important. And I look to the people over here that are putting this all together, but I really wanted to see a diversity. And I talked to everybody, I met with everybody who came in, and I thought that was really very important. And then secondarily, there was a brand that I didn't see in any of these that I had. In fact, it's Plum Market, and they moved their headquarters here. They bought the ownership bought homes here, and they're not represented. And I've never seen a concept like that before. I know they have in Dallas. I've had an opportunity to try their concept there, and it's really unique. And to have a local business that somebody wanted to be here, I don't know how, if there's a way for somebody to reach out and talk to them, but I think their concept is really unique with their sort of prepared foods in a way that is not like regular normal airport food. And unfortunately, I spend far too many hours in airports changing planes these days. Can really appreciate when you can something unique and good.
So we can't indicate the partners that they need to work with. Every single concession program that was proposed had good concepts within the programs, but we can't pick and choose amongst them.
Why?
Because they're different companies that operate the concessions, so we're unable to do that. However, each of the companies did propose alternatives, which are included in your package today. So if you want to take a look at some of the alternatives that they proposed, they did not propose alternatives for the market concepts. That's something that you certainly can consider. In terms of it being central Palm Beach County centric, we do have a limited number of locations within the airport for restaurant spaces. Concourse C is a little bit more constrained than what's going to happen at Concourse B with the expansion, because we actually expanded on both sides at the end of the concourse with the elevated the ceilings. It does give you a lot more space to work within. So it is a little bit limiting on how many concepts that you can get. And I think there are a total of 5 restaurant locations within the entire program. This program does include representation from like 2J's, which is, Palm Beach and Boca, and they have locations in Wellington, Havana, which is definitely West Palm Beach centric. I can say all of the programs did have more of an eastern focus than a western focus. And many of them did have a focus in more of the West Palm Beach region. I can't tell you why that is. However, I think all of the companies were successful in bringing in local and regional products to give that sense of place for the airport. As I mentioned, there are a lot of different local products that all of the companies intend on bringing in. They gave us actual list of the different products that they intended to bring in to each one of these units. With regard to, grab-and-go products, the Flagler Gourmet Express that is run by Parodies currently, they've partnered with Panaterie, which is a local commissary.
I know who they are.
And they have the most fantastic sandwiches and salads available at the airport. In very, very small square footage, they're generating over $1.2 million annually, so it's very, very popular. And that was a local, homegrown concept.
Pantry is actually right down here on Clematis Street next to the theater. Excellent sandwiches. If they could actually, it's not bad for airport sandwiches, but if they could actually get the sandwiches that they make in the little restaurant, even better.
So in the Verde Market, Panaterie will actually be one of the vendors that's featured in the Verde Market, as well as the Pump House Coffee, which is a local coffee as well.
Yep. Thank you. All right, those are my questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I'm going along the lines of Commissioner Weiss. I believe Parodies is here.
Yes, they are.
Would I be able to address them? Because I have a funny feeling that the question I'm about to ask you're not going to be able to answer. Would you guys be able to come up to the podium? Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being here. So you heard...
Sorry, what just occurred?
I'm just going to make a comment, but I have a feeling that our staff is not going to be able to answer, so I asked them to come to the podium, if that's okay with you, Mayor.
And you're with Parodies, right?
Yes, my name is Greg Parodies. I'm CEO of Parodies Lagardère.
And you have a card in?
Yes, I do. I have a card in. We both have cards in.
A little preemptory, but we'll allow it.
To just do their comment now, or do you want to ask questions?
No, I think he still wants to ask questions of the staff.
My
right?
question is along the lines of Commissioner Weiss. He made a comment regarding maybe other vendors that we were sort of hoping for. He mentioned Plum Market. when I met with Plum Market, I thought what they do is pretty unique. I like what they're doing. They did make an investment. I believe they have a market in Palm Beach Gardens. Would this be something that you'd be willing to consider to perhaps change your lineup a little bit, or are you a hard set on what you have?
Well, first of all, once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Can I jump in just real quick, too?
Yes.
If you change the concepts, it's also going to change the financial terms a bit. So if you're using a branded concept, it will change the finances a bit. So one thing I do want to mention is our agreement is very, very flexible. It gives us the option to change locations, concepts, square footage. We can switch units from different locations. So it's a very, very flexible agreement. So in terms of being able to award the contract today and tell us, go look and see if you can change this concept or you can change the theming, that's 100% something that can be accommodated in the current agreement. But I just wanted you to understand that by changing concepts, it changes the financial terms a little bit. So I'm going to defer to you.
Yes, that is correct. And we operate a Plum Market in Detroit, which is our former home base. We believe what we presented here, first of all, we did a lot of study through surveys of what the customers are looking for in Concourse C. We've been in this market for many years, but we really need a program for today and tomorrow versus yesterday. So our customer research was intense. The concepts we proposed is a Verde Market. We could change the name of that. That's our proprietary brand. Vino Volo, which is the most acclaimed brand for wine and spirits in the country, has wonderful customer satisfaction. And then third, the local coffee brand that we presented as well. So this allows us to flex with the marketplace as it changes. And sometimes brands like Plum Market, not speaking for them, are very fixed as to what you can offer and what you can't offer. And financially is a very different model than this model for us and for you as well from a rental standpoint. So I want to share with you just some of the due diligence we did, even though we've been in this market for many years, and we greatly appreciate this partnership. And we're extremely excited to meet the goals Laura talked about, a truly first-class experience, true sense of place. Can we present everything as far as local in this limited space? No. You need national brands. I know Starbucks may not be my favorite, your favorite, but the customers ask for two things in airports: where's the restroom, where's Starbucks? Maybe the order's different. Dunkin' is very, very important, and then our local brand is very important as well. So we try to balance it in the limited amount of space we have in Concourse C. Would you like to add anything, Sylvia?
No, I agree. I think what we try to do is bring a little bit of everything. It's a very diverse community. Having grown up in this community a little further south than here, it's just hard to be all things to all people and do it right. So I think we tried our best to showcase what we thought was really encompassing where the city is going, where it has been, and the future of it.
Yes, and one thing we're very excited, this will be the very first the turn by the PJ Tour that we're doing. We do PJ Tour shops. This will be an award winner. Right in the center will be a magnet. We love the plan that the team put together to really take a lot of this pre-security space, post-security, which will lead to higher customer satisfaction and higher revenue as well.
Okay. At this point in time, I'm going to side with Commissioner Weiss. I think I'd like to see both packages all at once. I'm not ready to vote today.
Vice Mayor Baxter?
I believe we have some more speaking cards, so I'd like to save my comments until we hear what the cards have to say.
And my card is there. It's Sylvia Peralta, S&P Concessions. I'm an ACDB partner with Parodies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff, do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay. So why don't we go ahead and take the cards?
Mr. Paradiso, you have a card in. Would you like to have additional comments for 3 minutes?
Well, appreciate first of all, appreciate the questions. I could feel the passion in the room here. We know how important sense of place is here. We've truly studied and interviewed your customer, and you are blessed. We are blessed with a very good customer at PBI from a demographic standpoint, and they deserve an absolute first-class program. And just like we've been committed to for the last many years as y'all's key retail partner, We are committed to the long term here with a significant investment. You saw almost $20 million, which is a lot from a mid-sized airport, but we know PBI deserves it. Lastly, and I understand, Commissioner Weiss, your concerns as far as seeing the entire program, but there are two separate concourses, and we're ready to move. We're ready to move because we know how important it is to align with what Laura shared as far as a transition plan. So we're really not competing with B. I think B and C will be complementary programs, and really we are ready to move forward. Our team is ready to move forward. We greatly appreciate your support to move forward today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sylvia Peralta, followed by Roz.
Sylvia's good.
Sylvia's good. Rose, looks like Gabriel. Dennis.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, commissioners. Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Airport Director. My name is Rose Dennis. I live at 4761 Northwest 6th Street in Plantation, Florida. I am here. I am the president of UNI here, the labor union representing over 7,000 people, hospitality workers across South Florida. And our workers work at the airport from Lee County to Broward County to Palm Beach County, and most of them work at the airport. And I am here today to talk to you about the choice that the recommendation for the airport concession, Paradise. This is a very good choice, and the traveler will be well served. The airport staff has done an excellent job with the process. I especially want to commend Airport Director Laura Bibi for her leadership and clarity, and Deputy Director Ray Walter for his work in the RFP. We are full of excitement for the future of the Palm Beach County Airport to look forward to the expansion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then we have Rick Roth, a former representative, and Eileen Mayora. With a mustache.
Good afternoon, commissioners, and I want to do a special shout out to my friend Senator Bobby Powell. Senator Commissioner, last time we were here was back in May, and I reminded everybody that University of Florida may be #1 in the nation in a few years, and they just happened to win a basketball game last night. So how cool is that? Go Gators! So I want to just talk from the heart. I'm a farmer. My father moved here in 1948, totally changed my family's history. We farm in the greatest place to farm, in my opinion, in the United States. I've been an advocate for agriculture all my life. I've been a Farm Bureau guy all my life, county president, vice president of Florida Farm Bureau. I can't talk to anybody without bragging about Palm Beach County agriculture. And we saw this as an opportunity when SSP came to us, Western Palm Beach County Farm Bureau, came to me first, and then I got Keith Wedgeworth involved and the rest of the Farm Bureau guys. We saw this as an opportunity to maybe make a connection. For the food agricultural industry, we are the 900-pound gorilla. $500 million of vegetables grown in the winter season in Palm Beach County because of the glades. We are not going anywhere, but we need to bridge, somehow or another, we need the help of the commission and other people, the restaurant associations and others, to make that food connection. And we thought this was going to be our opportunity, that we were going to be having some visibility at Palm Beach International Airport. Little fact you may not know, I do farm tours from people from France and Germany. They come to Miami, spend a week on the beach, and then come to Belgrade for a one-day farm tour, and I blow their minds. They cannot believe how big agriculture is in Western Palm Beach County. And we're not talking sugarcane, really, because sugarcane's not all that pretty. How about lettuce and romaine and radishes and sweet corn and celery and you get to take it home with you right there on the spot. So anyway, I just wanted to be here today to hear what was going on. This is a whole new concept for a lot of us to think about, but we just want you to know that the agriculture industry in Western Palm Beach County is fully supportive of what y'all are trying to do, bring some connection. When people come into Palm Beach County Airport, PBI, they go, oh, you got agriculture in Palm Beach County? Maybe I can do a farm tour. Maybe I can go out there and visit. Maybe I can play golf in Belglade, go fishing in Belglade. We need tourist dollars in more of Palm Beach County. So I want to applaud you for what you're trying to do. And maybe we might postpone this vote to another day. Just saying. Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor Baxter, your light's on again.
Representative, before you sit down. Representative Roth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're trying to get away that easy. So I would like to ask your opinion. How would this impact, this particular item impact agriculture out west?
As I mentioned in my remarks, Commissioner Baxter, we've been trying for years. I've been trying for years. I have a personal relationship with Dean Lavallee, Park Avenue Grill, trying to bridge the gap and try to figure out a way for people to come to the Glades and see what agriculture is and figure out a farm-to-table opportunities, working with square group or spottos. This is a door-opening concept to me, and I'm just here to tell you we have a world-class agriculture industry. We do retail pack on sweet corn, radishes, and green beans. We are one of the most transformative agricultural areas in the world. We are just world-class. And we see people coming to Palm Beach County and wanting to play golf, wanting to lay on the beach, wanting to go do something in February where the weather's really nice. And when people come out to my farm in January and do a farm tour, they are beyond ecstatic. The weather's beautiful. They can see farming as far as the eye can see. Everything's pretty blue and green colors, and it's like, they walk away going, wow, I am glad that we produce food right next door. And we just see it as part of our future. Part of our future is to make sure people understand how much we bring to the table. And Palm Beach County Commissioners, as a rule, have been very favorable to agriculture. But there are a lot of times when you see Palm Beach County, what do we do in Palm Beach County? Agriculture's kind of down at the bottom. It's not really highlighted as tourism and agriculture. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to be more visible.
Thank you for that. And so I will elaborate on my comments. You can sit.
Okay.
Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
I wasn't finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No
apologize.
worries. So I do agree with Commissioner Flores and Commissioner Powell. I would like, initially I was pretty, I don't like how this process works. I don't like somebody else choosing a selection committee and then presenting us with one option. You're basically saying, here you go, commission, have a nice day. We are supposed to be, in my opinion, choosing prior to the RFP going out. I mean, I've met with a lot of people trying to guess what was going to be in that RFP. And all of them gave me their word that agriculture was going to be a part of it. They said that they were going to make it front and center. And I haven't even seen a presentation from anybody who's presented to even see what essentially was in there, except for what staff puts together with some pictures. I would like to see at least the top 2 to 3 contenders from that selection committee, because recognizing we can't sit here for days on end, give us a presentation, get some feedback from us, let us tell them in a public setting what we would like to see in this. I love the idea of Plum Market. I remember that gentleman very well, and the fact that he is here, and this isn't even up to us at this point. This has been decided for us. So I would like to support my fellow commissioners in having a future vote and getting a presentation from the top people with this process. and see who is going to work with our agricultural industry, who is going to work with somebody willing to move their entire space and come open up shop in Palm Beach Gardens. Who is going to do that? And all we have are here, take it or leave it. We don't have options in front of us. We have, this is who we've chosen for you.
If I may, Vice Mayor, I think we have two different topics intertwined. One is related to the current selection, and I want to make it very, very clear. All that the selection committee does is make a recommendation. They do nothing else.
How do we have an option if we don't have the other information?
Understood, and that then ties to the second point that I was hoping to make. It goes back to what the selection process is, right? So the current county process is that it goes through an RFP, and the RFP results and responsive proposals are then sent to a selection committee, and this board has basically, through the county administrator and through county procedures, delegated the evaluation of the proposals to that selection committee. So this RFP was, the framework was around existing procedures, right? But what staff brings to the table is a recommendation based on the recommendation by the selection committee. This board holds ultimate decision power. That's the reality, and we will follow the direction that is provided today. But I want to make it clear that I think we do have two different topics. One is the standard that is followed.
Follow up, Mayor?
Yep.
Yes.
Agreed. It is two different topics. I think the more immediate solution would be have this come back and have the top contenders present to us for this particular item. But going forward, maybe we should look at our committee selection process and get more than one option going forward. We are the Board of County Commissioners, as my fellow colleague likes to say, and I love what she does. We should be deciding, not a selection committee. I don't mind a selection committee narrowing it down for us, but we should be ultimately deciding, and I'll leave it at that.
Before Commissioner Sachs, the selection committee is normally made up of folks with what experience?
It is a function of the RFP you have in place. In this case, that was your selection committee.
So the selection committee is made up of people that do this on a daily basis?
That is correct.
I think what the direction is that you're getting from here is there needs to be a process where the board has more input than just the final say. But knowing that there is a selection committee that has qualifications to be on that selection committee, whether it's finance or legal or whatnot, we're not those people. But we are the people that have to listen to everyone that comes knocking on our door or, tries to break the cone of silence, which has happened recently. But again, we do need to be able to have more input other than one. We don't want to rewrite policy. This is PPM that's been in existence a long time. It's not our job to, always change what staff is doing, but it is our job to have a little bit more input. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. You said it so well, Mayor. And let me reiterate what the Vice Mayor said. We are the Board of County. We represent 1.5 million people who we want to go through our beautiful airport. We have a boutique airport. It is the best. It is the best. But have these people tasted our vegetables? I don't know. I'm looking at them. Great people, great community leaders. I know them, at least most of them. But do they know ag? So what I think, and I didn't anticipate this conversation, but I think it's a good one. It's healthy. We need to know what's going on. Otherwise, I feel like I'm renting an office space here and making a decision. So, and I know, Ms. B, I have a lot of respect for you because you and I have worked together on TDC. So I agree with my colleagues. The Vice Mayor said it best. I think that even though we have great selection committee, we have great people here in this community, we represent the people. So let us determine what kind of foods they're going to get when they go into the airport, because we'll hear about it. If they don't like it, then they don't call those folks up unless we put them on the wall and say, if you don't like the food here, contact them. Here's their cell number.
I'm going to
But,
just
yes,
I'm
thank
just going
you.
to throw something in there. I don't, and I'm going to look to our attorney for this. What is our ability to tell someone who they can and can't put there?
So honestly, I don't know enough about how this industry works, but I am thinking that a proposer comes and then they negotiate their subcontracts. So they come and give a package that includes who they are going to do contracts with. So I don't know. I mean, we can certainly say that we have a preference for, local, and we have a preference for a focus on agritourism or agriculture, but I don't
We
think...
can give them guidelines, but
We can give
honestly,
them guidelines.
I'm not sure we
I
can say
jump-
you have to put a,
You cannot do that.
okay, thank you.
And if I can jump in there, every single one of the proposers for certain concept had to provide a primary and alternate because of this very issue. In the event that either the selection committee or the board members said, well, we feel like this is a stronger concept than the other, to give some choice. So within each package, there are differing options. You'll see that Perry's included different options as well as all the other proposers. Based on what I'm hearing from the board today, what I'm going to suggest, when we issued this RFP, it was in accordance with the process that we've used for many, many years. We did not receive direction to do anything other than what we normally do. So I can't go back in time and change the process. However, I think it would make sense, based on the comments that we're hearing, that we bring back number 1 and number 2, let you evaluate the proposals, and at that point, you can decide whether you're going to approve, and I'll have to have Mike tell me whether this is okay or not, approve or reject the selection committee's recommendation, or go with number 2, which is the normal process. Number 2 is SSP America, so those were the top 2. The differential between the top proposer and the last proposer was pretty large. There's another nuance in our RFP document that the proposers could not be awarded both concourses to ensure competition. You certainly don't want all your eggs in one basket. If one business has issues, you want to make sure that you have opportunities with others. So each package had 2 proposers on each package, but you can't have the same proposers on both concourses. So that's one of the nuances. But within those packages, each package, there were different alternatives to choose from, but you cannot have the proposer say, I want you to go find Plum Market, unless they're willing to negotiate that after the fact. You really need to look in with what they proposed initially.
Thank you. We have a couple more cards, I think.
And I can assure you that will be a very, very long meeting if that's the direction that the board takes.
I guess my name is Eileen Mallorca. My comments have changed since this conversation happened. We are a concessionaire that's been in the airport business for about 25 years, so we understand everything you're speaking of and totally respect the process. We know that it was a pretty significant process for this county, and what is placed in this airport is going to be extremely important to all of us, because although our incumbent on the retail side has done an excellent job, the food has not done such an excellent job. So we are very sensitive to not having to eat something before we go to the airport, because there's nothing good at the airport. So it's very important to every one of us to make sure we have the right offerings, and of course the farm to table with our friends over at the Farm Bureau are absolutely necessary for us. There's a lot of these great things to happen. So my original comments are not going to be the comments that I have now. I just, again, respect the process and look forward to seeing what you guys see with your own eyes. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
I think actually Director Beebe kind of answered my question. So you would be bringing back 2 for each of the...
So what we would be doing is transmitting all of the proposals to your offices for review, more likely than not electronically. They're very large packages. So each package is thousands of pages, which includes their financials, their project approach. There is criteria within the RFP that the selection committee considered.
Did they have a PowerPoint presentation that they presented to the selection committee?
I don't believe all of them had a shorter version. I think some of them did, but I don't think all of them provided us the actual.
No.
Listen, if I have to go through it, I will. That's fine. I just wanted to know. I'm surprised somebody would be doing a presentation and wouldn't have a.
I think there was one that did not have a PowerPoint presentation. But
Out of
not
the
one
four?
of the two that were
That's
talking
what I'm
about.
asking. Out of
Yeah.
those four, did they all have?
I'm fairly certain. I'll have to go back and check.
Thank you.
So I think it's important for context to answer that the selection process lasted an entire day of presentations, just to give you context. It was, sorry?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mayor. And can't we can always set a time limit if we want. Say, hey, this is how much time you have to present to us by those presenters. We don't have to give them all day.
So let me ask a question, and Attorney Kaufman has just put her line on too. We are now changing the policy and procedures of how we do this. And this is a very, we have policies and procedures in place so everyone is on level and equal footing. And if we start changing here and then changing somewhere else and changing somewhere else, we are now setting ourselves up. I'm going to keep talking. We're setting ourselves up for what I would see as a little bit of litigation. So, Attorney Kaufman, you want to weigh in on this?
Sure, thank you. I am comfortable with the way that we're going, with the caveat that the board needs to know that if you determine that the second-ranked provider is the one you want, you need to have some facts to back up that decision. Your decision cannot be arbitrary and capricious. Remember that selection committee has made a decision, and so you would be saying, that you're overturning that decision, and that's okay. You have the right to do that, but you need to make sure that you have facts, that you've gone through the materials, and that you can present some facts and reasons why you're doing that at the board meeting. Otherwise, it is likely there'll be litigation.
May I ask the attorney a question? So is wanting the company that focuses on agriculture arbitrary?
You have to look at the criteria that the RFP was scored on, folks. So you have to look at the selection criteria. You have to look at the requirements of the RFP.
So we really don't we do need to look at our processes then.
So in the RFP, it does give you the ability to look at project approach, which includes our objectives. Our objectives were including local, regional, and products and services and concepts. So that is part of the RFP process. We'll provide a copy of the RFP to you as well. I'm very comfortable that you will all be in agreement with what the RFP, the goals and objectives of it. And when you're reviewing in the selection criteria, it's based on the goals and objectives of the program. If you're in agreement with the first slide, let me see.
Administrator Baker, your light is on. You want to pipe in? And then I have Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I think it's always never fear the debate. We have an issue before us today, 5B1 and 2. One has been deleted. Why don't we just have a postponement of 5B2, if that's okay with Ms. Beebe and with the mayor, and then what I'm saying is that I do not think we need to change policy. I think what we need to do is revisit this after Ms. Beebe has a conversation. There's also a letter we all received. That's why, for some reason, we deleted 5B1. Let's just put this off on another day, if we could, give you all a time to discuss it with us, for us to review it, and then we can come back and look at it. Rather than, Mayor, if we start talking about changing policy, we'll be here till the crops are done or something. So I figure let's just...
There won't be any more corn.
There won't be any more corn.
I think we could just have them come back another day with.
Yeah, let's just, if it's okay with everybody, just postpone it. We'll take a look at it.
I have a couple of more commissioners, so let's hear their comments. Commissioner Flores and then Commissioner Weiss.
You want to do the administrator first?
I was going to try.
You had your light on.
I was going to try to stay quiet down here. However, we are talking about policy. We're talking about policy. And if it's this board's wish to change policy, we need to bring back, set up a different time frame to talk about policy, because we're steady pushing RFPs out, and we're following our standard procedures that we have in place. And what we want to do is make sure we're giving the board what you want and protecting us all at the same time. And so if we need to change policy, we can workshop it, quickly, because if not, we'll be holding up projects that you're telling us we need to get done. And if we're gonna bring the top two, have the selection committee go through based on, your direction, and then bring those two so they can do presentations in front of the board, however the board deems it appropriate. But currently, we have a policy in place, and we don't want anyone to use the policy in place against us later. So if the board, we can definitely delay this, bring both of them back at a time. But in the meantime, we need direction from this board on whether you want to change the existing policy.
Well, when you say existing policy, you mean this policy in particular, or all policies?
Well, do you? But this
Entire
policy.
This is a bigger discussion about the RFP process.
Yes, I'm talking
This is not
the RFP.
one we can figure out today.
No, I'm not proposing that. I'm saying delay this if the board wants something different, and then allow us to bring back a discussion regarding the RFP process, because it's going to get confusing when we pick and choose what we're going to apply various policies to.
That's my fear, yes. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Flores.
Oh, boy.
So I have a complete different opinion of this whole thing. Essentially, we're being asked to rubber stamp something? Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely not.
Because you're essentially saying that our current procedure is your selection committee makes a decision, and then we're just here to rubber stamp something. No, I'm just simplifying. I don't need a. I think essentially the reason that this is before us is so that we make the ultimate decision on who is it that we're going to hire. And if we so choose today to pick, I'm going to say number 3 because that's what we chose. That's what we chose. Could there be some legal ramifications because of that? There could be. But I think ultimately this board here is the one that is supposed to select the ultimate, whoever we give the contract to. That's one thing there. The other thing is it's almost impossible to know how these RFPs are because we can't see them beforehand. And I'll go back to the transportation master plan. By the way, I don't forget things. I keep them filed other places. When we did the transportation master plan, I wanted to see it before it went out, even if it was a draft version, just to see. And that day it was said, no, you can't see it, whatever reason. But my point is that because we weren't able to see it, I made a comment that I wanted to make sure that when we do the transportation master plan, that it comes before us so that we can choose all of them. So I hope that when we talk about that one, I know I'm talking about a whole different thing, but I did make a comment that day that I wanted to come before us for us to choose the company and that they would have to present to us. I am a big fan of having them come before us and having them be accountable and answer the questions that we have. We did that with the PFAS attorneys. We did that with the ambulance. And if we were talking policy further on that we're going to change, I would prefer doing that. I believe that a selection committee should be involved and they should rank them. And we should get their feedback on why they chose, in this particular case, Parodies. And I'm a big fan of that. And I bet you 90% of the times I am going to side with you. But if for some reason, I find that there's a better, or I go a different path, then I want to have that opportunity to do that. So I know that we're talking a little bit about policies, but at the end of the day, you're coming before us to select who's going to be given this contract. So I think we have the right to make a decision.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, this is really, I guess, to county administrator and or maybe county attorney. You know, a few years ago, and there were 3 of us on this board when our insurance provider RFP went out. And the selection committee came back and made their selection, and the board pushed back and said, no, we think we'd like to relook at this, and we did, and we picked not the company that was top ranked by the selection committee, and it turned out that they saved the taxpayers millions of dollars and provided better coverage for us, and that didn't create a policy change. It was just a matter of looking at what they were both offering, and then trying to make the best selection on behalf of the people of Palm Beach County. So my question is really, why would this be different than what we did then?
If I recall correctly, our staff made a recommendation on one Gallagher and Bassett. And then the board made the decision, no, we don't want number 1, we want number 2. It wasn't that, we gave the board, if I recall correctly, that there were presentations by both to the board. It was just the board decided not to go with our recommendation and went with number 2, and they gave their justification for why they wanted to go with number 2.
My recollection...
If I could just jump in real quickly, just based on what Denise has said, just to ensure, because the commissioners have not seen number 2 for each of these packages, in order to ensure that what we're moving forward with could not be considered arbitrary and capricious, I'd like to give them the opportunity to see both of at least the top 2 packages. And I believe, after talking to Mr. Jones, that that is consistent with our RFP requirements, because the board has discretion to reject or accept all proposals. So we brought the selection committee's recommendation to you. You have the absolute right to reject it. However, if you want us to move to number 2 and you want to reject, you need a rational basis for it. So giving you the opportunity to review the proposals and potentially to provide some time to the concessionaires to make a brief presentation, I would recommend that you hear from the proposers as well, to give them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about themselves, because at the end of the day, the presentations, and I was not on the selection committee, but I was at the meeting, I believe that was the make or break it for a couple of the decisions for the selection committee.
Thank you. Attorney Kaufman, your light is still on.
I did just want to clarify, there's 2 issues going on here. The first issue is whether this board has the right to pick someone other than the person that's recommended, and how they should go about doing that. Yes, you do. That's not a change in policy. The policy is that we use selection committees. That policy was followed and was used here. But it is absolutely within your discretion to choose to have a presentation and to pick somebody else. The only concern, like we've reiterated here, is that you have a legal basis to do so. We want to make sure that you have looked at the other, contenders and have made a decision based on the evidence. That's what we would like for you to do. The other issue is moving forward. What does the board want to do moving forward? What do you want to give instructions to staff on a case-by-case basis, that we want this to come back to us with the top 2 contenders, so that we put out the RFPs that way, and so that everybody is aware ahead of time that the board is going to make the final decision, and you'll have that information in front of you at the time of the initial decision, rather than trying to backtrack and get the information later on and then come back again, because we are delaying the project most likely by putting this vote off, just so you know.
So it will delay moving forward with the concessions program, probably by several months. If the board elects to move forward with parities, we have a negotiated contract, it's ready to be signed. If you elect to reject the Parities contract and move forward with the second ranked proposer, it would require us to negotiate the contract to make sure that we have our bonds and our insurance and all the other things and bring it back to the board at a future meeting. So the selection alone, we would still need to go through some process in order to move forward with that.
May I, Mayor, if I may, to build on the point that County Attorney made, I think aside from airports, which is topic one, topic two that has countywide implications needs to take or should take into consideration that we have 6 departments actively issuing RFPs. So I want to make a suggestion. We have a process in place that involves the selection committee. The only thing that I believe we're missing right now is that you don't get to see all the proposals, if I follow you correctly, Vice Mayor. If you continue to do the RFPs the way you do it right now, we currently, every selection committee, at the end, before making a recommendation, goes through the reasons why they are recommending. I think we might bring that along with the proposals, and that way you have everything together and you have the logic of those processes. And the reason I'm suggesting that is because we have active RFPs that if we're going to change the process as of today, those RFPs need to be revisited. So it's kind of the broader concept aside from airports.
Commissioner Sachs and then Vice Mayor.
I agree with the Vice Mayor, and I agree, Commissioner Weiss brought this up originally. I thought it was, I think, is an excellent point. I move that we postpone this issue until whatever date is appropriate for Ms. Baby, and that we revisit these areas of who's going to get these contracts. We've already doing that on 5A1, I believe. So let's, and I think Commissioner Weiss brought up it should be a package. So we're bifurcating it, and it has nothing to do with a policy. Policy, as Ms. Baker said, is not something we're going to decide all of a sudden now at 3:57 and without Commissioner Woodward. This is a big deal, changing policy. So we do that at a later date, workshop it or something. But today, on this issue, Commissioner Weiss brought it up originally. Vice Mayor had a good suggestion. We table this or postpone it or continue it into a date certain, and then we revisit who's in and who's out of the airport as a package, as you said, with 5A and 5.1. So I move that.
Okay. There's a motion from Commissioner Sachs.
Can I just ask for clarification? Does that mean you would like to see the top 2 proposers for both packages?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does. And that was the second from Commissioner Weiss.
And may I add to that, Commissioner Sachs? I don't want to change any policies today. I want to be very clear on that. But we could do a brief workshop. And the different kinds of RFPs, are there different financial ramifications? Like, when we do this, so if we're looking at a policy, we might change nothing. We might say, you know what, perfect. But at least present us the information and let us decide what we'd want to do going forward. And I don't want to hold up anything currently in place, okay? So please proceed to move forward. We don't need to slow down a very slow process. But I think it's worth us having a conversation over at a future date.
So keep the process going as it is until we make it to a workshop and then receive further direction.
Right.
Commissioner Weiss and then Commissioner Powell.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So from my understanding, according to the Vice Mayor, we want to move forward with the Parities contract now, or are we bringing that back as a, okay, we'll be bringing that back as a separate entity, as a separate item with the full package, both 1 and 2, A and B and C, all right? And then are we getting the proposals from the top 2? Is that still what's on the table?
So what I would propose is giving you a copy of the RFP, the proposals that were submitted for the top 2 selected. We provided high-level summaries to the selection committee so that you would get the same information that the selection committee received. I would suggest also giving the selection committee scoring and ranking, the raw scoring and ranking, so you can take a look at that as well. We would bring it back at another board meeting and have presentations by the proposers, go through that process. It will be a very lengthy process. The packages are very, very large. I mean, each of them, like I said, are thousands of pages. It takes a lot to go through them each. But we certainly are happy to do that. You know, at the end of the day, my goal is ensuring that you're proud of your airport and that you have frankly, an award-winning concessions program for our award-winning airport. I could care less who you choose, but we would like to move forward with the program because I think every single proposer had good proposals. The top two obviously stood out on each of those packages.
Thank you.
Thank you. Follow-up, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
So in these presentations, are we looking at, because I know a former representative or Representative Rick Roth is here, and he talked about agriculture. Are we also looking at the breadth of what's presented for both B and concourses B and C when you come back? Is that
Yes.
what we're also taking into account?
Yes, we'll come back with both package. We have the recommended award. Those contracts are signed. We'll bring those contracts back. If you decide to go with what the selection committee is recommending, you can award those that day. If you choose that you want to go with the second proposer, you would reject the selection committee's recommendation, direct us to go back and negotiate with the second proposer. We would then bring back the contract with the second proposer. The only caveat is that you cannot award the proposals to the same companies. SSP was number 2 on both package 1 and package 2, because that would change the competition that was provided.
That's what I thought. Question with that. I understand that, look, we know Representative Ross talked about agriculture and farming here. If that's not included in proposal 1 and 2.
All of the proposers talked about using local products
Okay.
and local agricultural products. So it's what, I'm sure as a result of this meeting and hearing all of you about the importance of that, they've highlighted that in their presentations, but I'm assuming when they come back and speak to you, they're going to really highlight that in their presentations. I think they've probably heard loud and clear that that's important to you.
Okay, thank you.
Administrator Baker, on the 22nd, we have a workshop, and I don't know what's on the agenda for the workshop. And then on the 24th, we have a zoning meeting.
If I recall correctly, we have a full workshop schedule. We've got about 4 items on that workshop schedule. But if I need to pull something to make this a priority, I can definitely do so.
Well, I think listening to Ms. Beebe about the time frame and not putting it off too much longer, and if in fact we do choose option A and option A, then there is no delay. If we could put it on the workshop agenda on the 22nd, I think that would behoove us to do that. So
Okay,
you're going to
just-
have to,
okay.
so we will have a regular meeting at the beginning of the workshop. If we have enough time for notice for that, actually that's 2 weeks.
Yes, we have notice. We have time.
And is that enough time for you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Our contracts are signed, so it's just a matter of giving you the materials, and we'll do an intro presentation, let the concessionaires do brief presentations. I don't know if you have a time limit that you'd like to provide them so they can prepare in advance. We did 15 minutes with questions and answers after, and that went on for 8 hours with 6 proposers. So I would certainly.
Sounds like we're just doing proposer.
1 and 2 for each package, so it's a
for
total
each
of 4
package.
presentations.
Yeah.
I would suggest a time limit so that they can prepare. They will more likely than not submit presentations that I'd suggest that we go through. So I don't know whether you want 10, 15 minutes. You certainly will have questions.
I think 10. I think 10. Okay, Dano?
Madam
That's
Mayor.
you. Yes.
So we've got our consolidated plan for our fiscal year 2025 through 2029, we must do that. It's a timing issue. And then we have our action plan, which is housing. Both of those are housing. The youth reentry program, I will move. Animal care and control overview, I think Commissioner Sachs requested that. So I can move that one as well. And then we can make it all morning if it's necessary for what you want to do regarding the airport item.
Is that okay with the rest of the board?
Listen, I'm sorry.
I asked if it was okay.
Thank you
and
very much.
You have an opinion? Go
We're
right
looking
ahead.
at what date again, Ms. Baker?
This is April 22nd.
Okay, now, we've got a lot of things to do on this, according to what you said, Ms. Baby. So maybe we need a little more time, and I think that, so I think that we need a little more time. And at least another week or two. I have heard from everybody on this, by the way.
I'm sure you
So, you know that. And so for me to sit here, as Commissioner Weiss brought it up initially, it was brilliant. We need to really take a look at this carefully. So let's give us a date without taking all those good people off of that workshop. Give us a date, we'll workshop it and take care of it. But
I think we stick with April 22nd. This is going to cost people money to do this, and we're not in the business of trying to cost people money. And I appreciate you wanting to give everyone else time. Ms. Beebe said the contracts are already in place. The information is already out there. I don't think we need to postpone this any more than 2 weeks. And again, this is up to the board, but that would be my opinion.
So this would be a vote on who's going to get in and where they're going to get in on 5A
So we'll
and
be
5B.
bringing contracts to you for approval based on the selection committee's recommendations. You have the right to reject it, so you're going to hear presentations from both. If you reject the selection committee's recommendation, you'll direct us to move forward with negotiation with number 2. We do have good summaries of the package of this that were submitted, so they are very unwieldy, but we do have summaries that point you to the right pages in the packages. So yes, it's going to take you some time to go through it, but we're giving you a roadmap with it. So
Okay,
hopefully it
April
wouldn't.
22nd. You think it's good?
Yeah, we're good to go.
So, as I was saying, April 22nd will be fine, so we will postpone this item until April 22nd. Do we need to get a motion to postpone? We have a motion and a second. We never took a vote, correct? All those in favor? All those opposed? See that the motion carries 6-0 to postpone until April 22nd.
We are still in the code of silence, just until the 22nd didn't possibly happen.
Yes, and again, I have been getting calls from folks who wanted to talk about this. So yes, thank you for the reminder. We still are under the cone of silence, whether you are Paradis or anybody working for Paradis or any of the other companies. So thank you very much for that reminder. All right, we're actually not done. We actually have more on our agenda.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Vice Mayor Baxter is, we have 5C1, which is, no, we didn't. We
just approved.
No, we did. It sounded similar, but we didn't do 5C1. 5C1, hold on a second, is a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners approving the issuance not to exceed $250 million to the Housing Finance Authority. This is I don't think you all need to sit because I don't think we're going to ask any questions because this doesn't cost us any money and this is just you're looking for our support. We are on 5C1.
Page 49.
Page 49. Anyone need a presentation? No. Who would like to make the motion?
I will move that, you want me to read the statement?
No.
Okay. I will move that we approve 5C1.
And I have a second?
I will second. I just want to read into the record, neither the taxing power nor faith and credit of the county nor any county funds shall be pledged to pay principal or redemption premiums, if any, or interest on the bonds.
Fabulous. We have the first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See that motion carries 6-0. Okay, we pulled item 5C2. We are now on item 5C3. This is the LIHEAP. Actually, that's not how you pronounce it. LHAP, however you pronounce it. LHAP, okay. These are state chip funds, which require no local match. Does anybody want a presentation on this? And Greg, as I'm going through, do we have cards?
We have cards on this one.
Okay, so we have cards on 5C3. Does anyone want a presentation?
No.
If you could give a brief explanation as why this is coming back, just very brief.
This is a resolution that the Board of County Commissioners is required to give to the state every 3 years, an updated list of the strategies in order to receive SHIP funds from the state on an annual basis. So we have to do this every 3 years.
We're on C3.
There you go.
C2 got pulled. We're on 5C3, which is page 52. Okay? No problem. So do I have a first? Oh, actually, we have, well, that's true. We do have cards. So anyone who wants to talk, Greg is going to call your name.
All right.
Put a card in.
We have Lois, looks like Lumbrinos, and Lisa Cantrell.
And not only are you reading cards, you're doing the timing.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. We're getting late. Am I allowed to comment on the bit with the farmers and
That's
about
over.
the airport
That
kiosks?
conversation is over.
Okay, thank you. Regarding 5C, it's the same thing about the $250 million. I'm just hoping that it does actually go towards single families and homeowners and not towards rental units. And that's really it. I'm just hoping that the families are supported and given an opportunity to own their homes based on the current middle income families that are making about $40,000 to $70,000 a year. I don't know how anybody's going to afford a $500,000 home. I understand the predicament you guys are in, but 10% of Palm Beach County's 65-year-old senior citizens are living in poverty and living on about $2,200 a month or less. 15% of Palm Beach County right now, according to the U.S. data, are living in poverty. Our children are 15% in Palm Beach County are living without housing and proper shelter. You can't have all of these programs if people aren't making enough money to support themselves. They can't reinvest in the economy. They can't buy watches, cars, invest in corporate goods if they don't even make enough money to survive. That's it.
The first card was Lois,
Yes. I don't think.
and I think
Lois, are you here?
Lois has left the building. Okay, so we have all the cards. We had motion, and do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See, that motion carries 5-0.
Can I just say something before they leave, Mayor? Sure. Okay. Would you be able to, who's in charge here? Who's the boss here?
You guys.
No, oh yeah. Really? Don't go there. Okay. Dr. Fields, are you in charge?
I'll take it for the moment.
I don't know. I'd like to have a status report. You do this every 3 years. Why don't you send to all of us what we've been doing to help people in getting into homes with this money? All right, would you send that to all of us? Thanks,
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we are now on 5D1, which is Engineering and Public Works, and this is a couple of things. This is to approve a preliminary reading and permission to advertise for public hearing on Tuesday, June 3rd, the 6-cent local option fuel tax. And then there are a couple of interlocal agreements with cities that have already signed on, and I'm sure we'll get more, so we'll be approving more in the future. But would anybody like a presentation on the gas tax? Everybody is familiar with what gas tax does and who it supports and the infrastructure it supports. David, you did your letter on April 4th was a very good letter. Thank you very much. I don't, with our our comprehensive master plan for transportation coming forward, I see the way we've got the structure for the 6 cents tax right now, the fuel tax staying in place. We'll, as that comes to fruition and we see where we need dollars to go, I think we might have a conversation about this next year. But I think right now we're good, and I don't see any lights on. Commissioner Flores?
I'll make a motion to approve item 5D1 A, B, C, D, E.
Is it okay, Attorney, if we take them all together? Yes. Okay.
I'll second.
So we have a first from Commissioner Flores, a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? See that motion carries 5-0. All right, that was item 5D1. 5E1. Okay. Palm Tran Storage.
We have. Look at this. League of Cities was up.
And just a shout out to Richard Radcliffe. Thank you for getting the League of Cities to do their interlocal agreements. I believe Patrick was at a meeting a couple months ago. I was there too, where you said, get it going. And I think we have the more than 51% that we need, so.
Got Boca today, we're up to 73%.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All righty. Who's going to take the lead on this?
So happy to do introductions. Mayor Isami Ajala. Hopefully it works now. Isami Ajala, Assistant County Administrator and Director of Facilities Development and Operations. With us is Chief Assistant County Attorney Howard Falcon, Property and Real Estate Development, Property and Real Estate Management Division Director Purvi Bugaita, Assistant County Administrator Todd Bonlaron, and Executive Director of Palm Tran, Ivan Maldonado. And Purvi will proceed with the presentation.
Purvi, before you proceed, does anybody want a presentation? No. Well,
Yes.
okay.
I think more so for people to understand exactly what we're doing in terms of facilities, and we may understand, but there may be people, and it can be a short, brief presentation, but I think this is kind of
A
important.
brief presentation would be good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, Commissioners. Today we are seeking approval of a lease agreement with MG Congress for a portion of the property located at 1200 South Congress Avenue in Palm Springs for the Palm Tran Connection Paratransit operations for a term of 8 years at an annual rent of $2,065,000 with 3% annual increases. The subject facility sits on approximately 12 acres and includes a 47,792 square foot building. MG is not the current owner of the property, rather it has entered into a contract to purchase the property. The county seeks to enter into this lease for the premises to be used for Palm Tran paratransit operations. The lease commencement date is contingent on MG's acquisition of the property, obtainment of all use approvals from the Village of Palm Springs, and completion of certain improvements to the premises by MG. As it relates to the second contingency, the property's operation hours were restricted by the village from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. MG, at its sole cost, filed for a waiver of the use restrictions to allow for 24-hour operations. The Village of Palm Springs approved the waiver on February 13, 2025, thereby fulfilling this lease commencement contingency. Effective on the lease commencement date, the annual rent will be $2,065,000 or $172,000 a month, with annual increases at 3%. This is a triple net lease, therefore the county will be responsible for maintenance, utilities, insurance, and taxes for the premises. The county's obligation to pay property taxes shall be capped at $400,000 for the first full calendar year following lease commencement. If the taxes for the first full calendar year exceed $400,000, the rent shall be decreased in the amount above $400,000. To fund the first year of the lease, Palm Tran requires a budget transfer, which does require board approval. Palm Tran supports this lease as it will allow for greater efficiency in performing paratransit operations with multiple vendors. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Maldonado to talk about the efficiencies.
Thank you. This particular facility will be extremely convenient for us. We currently have 2 facilities, and as a result, with different vendors, and as a result of that, it becomes very hard to manage oversight of maintenance, operations, and that sort of thing that are required as per state guidelines and federal guidelines for us to maintain the level of quality assurance that is necessary for us to provide services. So the facility itself allows for the parking of 300+ paratransit vehicles and non-revenue support vehicles. So it does also provide ample space for expansion if needed. It will allow us, as I said before, better management oversight of vendors to ensure compliance, especially with regards to the state 1490 operational guidelines. I would say ultimately we will be translating some of our staff that are currently in the connection program to have direct oversight of the facility, so that would also offset some of the costs as well. We will have enhanced physical security to ensure that our vehicles, our rolling stock, are properly cared for. We believe because it's a centrally located facility will allow for us to obtain better fuel efficiencies because you are not deadheading in different locations when they are far separated from the direction of travel. And I would say this would be ultimately the reasons why I think it's a great opportunity for us to lease this facility.
That's all we have.
Commissioner Flores, you just put your light on. Are you, oh, good, look, BCC deliberation.
So the reason I put my light on is, 1, because this is in my district, and 2, because Todd and myself have been working on this probably since January on tweaking the contract. And I want to acknowledge the owner. I want to thank them for working with us because they accommodated the 8-year term to make sure that it aligned with our RFP. And I thought that when we have good partners in the community that are willing to work with us is something that we should echo. Originally, we were looking at a 15-year contract, and I was looking for an out clause just in case, we don't know what's happening in Washington where funds may get cut. But since we are going out for an RFP with our partners, then this aligns and mirrors those RFPs. So I'm very comfortable where we're at. Plus, we're also, it affords us the opportunity to reduce the cost instead of having the 2 contractors independently going to get their own place. So I'm totally in favor of this, and I would like to make the motion for 5E1, A, and B.
We can get a second, but we have cards, do we not?
We get to hear from former County Commissioner Stephen Abrams, followed by John Samuel.
You can wave in support.
Oh, listen, of course I am, but then I couldn't give my 10-page speech. Anyway, Stephen Abrams, LSN Partners, here with MG. Thank you, Commissioner, for those kind words. And at this juncture in the meeting, I know that the best thing to say is we are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other cards?
John Samuel. He's waving.
Waved in support? Okay. And that's it?
That's it.
We have a first and a second. First from Commissioner Flores, second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Todd, you're going to stay?
I will.
We have a
You'll have me.
mid-session legislative report.
I thought you'd do this, Bobby.
Ed Chase is joining me as well.
Still see what your former colleagues have done to us.
Thanks, Gaston, as well, from the County Attorney's Office, joining us also. And Casey is listening in from Tallahassee right now, too. She's been watching us all day, awaiting this wonderful opportunity. And I'm going to turn this over to Ed Chase, our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, for the county, and we will try to breeze through this as quickly as we possibly can for you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. We'll give you a brief half-session update. As of last week, that was the mid-session of this legislature. 44 bills have passed either one chamber or the other. None, as of this point, have passed both yet. The House, of note, they have passed the law that would bring the age to purchase long guns back down from 21 to 18. The Senate has not heard that bill yet. The House also passed the repeal of the free kill statute. The free kill statute is with regard to medical malpractice claims. Currently, only the injured person, along with their spouse or any children under 25, are eligible to file medical malpractice claims. If I have a daughter who's 28 who suffers some sort of injury, she is over 25, and as her father, I would not be able to make a claim of medical malpractice. So it is trying to fix that issue. That was an issue that was fixed back in the 90s during the medical malpractice reform time. The Senate has passed the Rural Renaissance Bill. We've spoken about that with you individually. Our County Road 880 language was in that bill, and we're very grateful to have that passed as part of that. The Senate also passed a presidential library preemption that would prohibit local governments from enforcing any regulations affecting presidential libraries unless permitted by federal law. And also the Senate passed the repeal of later school times. So now middle school days could not begin before 8 a.m. and high school days would not begin before 8:30 a.m. The House has not heard that bill yet. On the budget, both the House and Senate came out with their budgets last week. The Senate budget is $117 billion. The House budget is $112.9 billion. That is a difference of $4.4 billion. That is the largest chasm I have ever seen between the House and Senate. That does not bode well for negotiations over the next 4 weeks. By statute, the budget must be on members' desks on Tuesday, April 29th, so that there can be a 72-hour cooling off period on time for a Friday sine die. Just a couple of issues in the budget. Visit Florida was funded at $80 million in both the House and Senate bills. The Senate bill funded cultural and museum grants at $40 million. The House was at $13 million. C-51 Reservoir was funded at $70 million in the Senate and at $0 in the House. FERDAP recreation grants were funded at $12.2 million in the Senate, $0 in the House. Beach management was funded at $52.5 million in the Senate and $50 million in the House, which is good news for our beaches. Taxation proposals have taken up a lot of some of the airtime with the governor and the House especially, so I just wanted to hit on some of those issues very quickly. The governor, in his remarks, has asked the legislature to pass a $1,000 property tax rebate that would be effective in December 2025. As of this point, neither the House nor the Senate has put that in their budget. He has also asked the House and the Senate to look at the reduction in property taxes in time to place those on the 2026 ballot for a statewide constitutional question. A couple of bills are floating in the House and Senate on property tax reduction. HJR 357 would create a $100,000 property tax exemption. So basically that would wipe out the local taxes paid that are currently now between 25 and 50. So the exemption would be from $0 to $100,000. In the Senate, there's a bill floating, Senate Bill 1016, that would increase the property, that would basically eliminate the 25 to 50 payment, so it'd be a $0 to $75,000 exemption. Neither one of those bills has been heard in either the House or Senate to this point. When the House came out with its tax package last week, there were no sales tax holidays in the House package. One other tax, homestead property tax exemption that we're watching very closely is Senate Joint Resolution 1510. So that would exempt taxation of leased residential properties, specifying that the property must be subject to a long-term lease, which would be 6 months or more, as of January 1st of the taxable year to qualify. And the owner of that leased residential property must also hold an equitable title of his or her own homestead property exemption to be eligible. That Senate joint resolution is waiting to be put on the Senate Finance and Tax agenda on Thursday, and it is not on the House Commerce Committee this week. We will see if it is on the agenda next week.
So as we talk a little bit more about individual projects in Palm Beach County and the budget, these are the priorities that you as the board set for us and asked us to move forward on. And as you can see, we are in play in either the House or the Senate budget, or both in those instances, for all of these top priorities that you've set out with Restore Reentry, Peanut Island, Australian Island, our fire rescue vessels, Murakami, housing money that we have almost matched up on both sides already, our Palm Tran Pilot Pass pilot program, and then our West Palm Beach downtown signalization is in the budget at $1.5 million. We also have funding for our request for the Lake Worth Lagoon, as well as the Locks River Initiative, and we're going to continue to work through the conference process on those items as they're reconciled. Just to point out a couple of other projects around Palm Beach County and in your districts. Here's a list of some of the top Palm Beach County appropriations that are in the budget. The South Florida Fair Emergency Management Shelter is in for $350,000. We've got Bush Wildlife, Boca Helping Hands, the YMCA Center at our park, $500,000, and then Gulf Cox Science Center in there at $2.5 million.
Hey, Todd,
and the Senate
we can
$1.5
read.
million there.
So,
and then
is
the
there
next
anything
page
that you
again,
really want to highlight?
Yep, you can see those as well. We have those projects in there also. You can kind of take a look at those and see where they are in the House and the Senate. We also wanted to share with you on 880. The next slide, we were able to do a floor amendment to the Senate President's priority package with his assistance, specifically looking at setting aside up to $15 million annually for funding for 880 over the next 6 years until 2031. So we're excited about that.
Some BCC priorities that we are currently following: Senate Bill 106, exploitation of vulnerable adults, already passed the Senate and is ready on the House floor. That would help to prevent the exploitation of an unascertainable person, which is basically someone on social media, from trying to take money from a vulnerable adult. Senate Bill 2000 would require the DEP to develop a statewide comprehensive waste reduction and recycling plan. That is a bill that is put forth by Senator Lori Berman and State Representative Joe Casello. That has 2 committees left in the Senate and 1 on the House. Senate Bill 382 is a bill that came from us. This is a bill that would prohibit a landlord from increasing rent of a dwelling unit during the term of a rental agreement if the unit qualifies as affordable housing and the landlord has received federal, state, or local funding or tax incentives because of the unit's status as affordable housing. That has 2 committees remaining in the Senate and 1 left remaining in the House, and we want to thank Senator Bernard and Representative Deborah Tendrich for sponsoring that bill. The State Attorney Recovery Task Force legislation has not been heard in either the House nor Senate. That does not bode well for that legislation going forward this year. One other issue that we're also following very closely is Senate Bill 954 on recovery residences. This would basically require counties and cities to allow the establishment of a retirement residence, a recovery residence, in all districts zoned for multifamily use without any additional requirements able to be put on by by local government. If a level 4 recovery residence can be denied by a local government if the location of that residence is adjacent to a single-family residential development with at least 25 homes. That has passed 1 of 3 House committees and is in a Senate stop in the Senate on Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. That is a preemption that both FAC and the Florida League of Cities are following very closely. Other priorities we are watching is a couple of public records exemptions, one on information on county administrators. That has not been heard in neither the House or Senate. We want to thank Representative Gerwig for sponsoring that. Senate Bill 856 would create a public records exemption for sexual assault counselors, personal identifying information. That is a bill that came from staff pushed forward from Palm Beach County. We want to thank Senator Polsky and Representative Casello for sponsoring that bill. That also has not yet been heard in either the House or Senate. And Palm Beach County's only local bill this year is House Bill 4011. That would change the definition of what a local building official is as it applies to the Palm Beach County Building Code Advisory Board to help reduce vacancies and build that pool for participation there. We want to thank Representative Kelly Skidmore for sponsoring that bill in the House. She has already shepherded that local bill through all 3 House committees, and it is waiting on the House floor for a vote.
The bills that we're monitoring, the State Land Management Bill, Senator Gare Harrell, as well as Representative Gossett-Seidman, filed this in response to some of the proposals that came out of the executive branch of government, and it has been moving through the committee process, heard once in the Senate, and it's on its last hearing in the House this week. The rural community bills we explained a little earlier. That was on the 880 legislation, and that is a priority of the Senate President. That's already passed the Florida Senate. 180 is the larger emergency response and preparedness package. That is on the floor of the Senate this week. It's peppered with a number of different items related to emergency response and some of the storms that we saw as of late, and it still has a couple more committees left in the House. The Utility Relocation Bill 818 is one just to call your attention to a fairly large unfunded mandate. This would put the onus on local governments when utilities are asked to be moved because they're in a road right-of-way or rail right-of-way. It would be the responsibility then of the county, the city, or other entity that's the owner of that easement to pay for that location. So we'll see how that continues to work. It's up in the final House committee this week, and it has one more committee meeting left in the House. And then the waste management legislation, which I know you've been hearing from a lot of different angles. So there's a number of bills that are out there, the Senator Avila bill in the Senate, as well as the Weinberger bill in the House. 1822 is a new bill that's now in this mesh. And there was an amendment that was filed and passed under Senator Martin's bill, and they've tried to narrow down that preemption right now on the waste-to-energy facilities to focus much more on the Miami-Dade area than the rest of the state. So we're going to continue to monitor that and let you know how that fares.
And 4 other bills we're monitoring, 2 on tourist development taxes. Senate Bill 1114, we always look for bills that either expand or contract how TDTs might be used. This is a food fight in Orange County that would have limited development taxes for promotion advertisement to $50 million annually. It has not been heard in either the House nor Senate. That is good news. Senate Bill 1664 is a concern of ours. That bill would require that any local discretionary sales surtax, tourist development tax, or local food option and beverage tax would be subject to a referendum, would have to return for referendum every 8 years. That would be clearly an issue for us when we do our bonding on those items. It has 2 committees left in the House. One of those committees is meeting tomorrow morning at 8. We do have 3 members of the Palm Beach County delegation, Representative Caruso, Representative Gossett-Seidman, and Representative Ann Gerwig on that. So Casey has been working with those members to let our concerns be known on that particular issue. Senate Bill 1570 is the sovereign immunity bill. Both bills in the House and Senate came out very early that said they would raise the sovereign immunity limits. Currently, they are $200,000 per person, $300,000 per incident. It would increase those limits to $1 million per person and $3 million per incident. Both the bills were the same in the House and Senate. Neither bill has been moving. The House just started to move with an amendment that was put forth on Sunday that dropped those significantly. So now those numbers in the House would be $500,000 per person and $1 million per event.
Okay. Commissioner Powell had his light on. I think he said he was going to wait. But Commissioner Sachs put her light on and turned it off.
Thank you so much, Mayor. You've given us all this background. It's excellent. I've read it all twice. And I was just wondering if we could take questions at this time rather than go through every bill, if that's okay with the mayor.
I don't want to lose a quorum because I know we have to receive and file.
Let's go.
So, Commissioner Powell.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the questions I have with regard to the bills that are moving forward right now, if the bills have not been heard in the first committee of reference at this point in session, it's likely they're not going to pass, correct?
That is correct. It is likely.
Likely. However, we say that with the caveat, what's the I haven't been there in so long. You know, it's been a long time since I've been in the legislature, back when I was young. What's the likelihood that if it hasn't passed a committee, that it could be placed inside of another bill or amended, language could be amended onto another bill?
There is a possibility that that could happen. There is a withdrawal process that you can go through in chambers where chairs of committees can withdraw some of those bills from committee if it hasn't been heard. There are rules, though, that govern that. So points of order can be raised on particular amendments, and if there are items that we've been tracking that we are not in favor of, oftentimes we work on rules, violations in order to stop the movement of something that hasn't been heard that we would not like to see move forward.
That being said, the presiding officer of either the House or Senate can do what he or she wishes to do.
60 very dangerous days, right?
That's right.
Last question. Last comment. $117 billion is similar to what the budget was last year for the entirety of the legislature. Even with the cuts, I think it ended up being 117.1 and then the House. So $117 billion is very conservative for the Senate, considering that we've had inflation, and the budget should actually increase by a little bit, right? And the House is at $112 billion, which is a major reduction.
$6.6 billion reduction from where we left off last year.
I don't even know what to say. I know that's a huge gap that they'll have to work on, but there is a possibility that if they don't meet those numbers, they could go into an overtime session. They have to pass the budget before June 30th. They could go home and come back. But what are you hearing?
Well, I think when Ed went over the tax package with you earlier, that's a pretty good indication of how far apart they are just in how they're going to reconcile both between the House, Senate, and the governor's office on taxes. This reduction in the House is mainly driven by the Speaker of the House's tax proposal to eliminate that sales tax. But I will tell you, he was very clear to us when we met with him the first week of session. He said, you will see a budget from the House that will be less than what our budget was last year. So, true to form, he's done that. It's just this new proposal on the taxes is one that's come out a little bit late, and senators and others are having a hard time digesting it. Particularly the governor's office is having a hard time digesting that as well. So there's a lot of work to be done in a short period of time to reconcile this. It really is going to be contingent upon whether I think the Speaker is going to hold firm on where he is on taxes, or whether he's willing to negotiate that for some other issues.
Thank you. I just want to make sure citizens watching at home and we as members of this body are very cognizant of the proposals related to property taxes, as well as the proposed reduction of a state sales tax, because of what the implications of those reductions could be. So just make no bones about it. This is something that we should really be paying a lot of attention to, especially considering not just us, the people who are at home and people who are in this building right now should understand that if the state, not we, 'cause I'm not a part of that, if the state cuts sales taxes, or if there's even the governor's proposal of $1,000 rebate for everyone who has a homestead, that has major implications. That has major implications considering who owns homes. Right now, we're trying to work to get people into units. And a lot of those units that we're working on getting people into are for rental. And it would not benefit the individuals who we would hope to benefit. I don't know if that, even the rental or the lease, the long-term lease proposal by the House, that probably, no, that's not going to trickle down to the people who are renting. It will be the benefit of the person who owns. So those are major policies that we should all be cognizant of and paying attention to.
Commissioner Powell, at our joint legislative meeting with the legislative delegation, you brought up the bill that called for a study on the elimination of property taxes and kind of warned all in the room about that. I just want to let you know that that bill is Senate Bill 852, and it has not been heard in the Senate at all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is on the sovereign immunity bills. I know one of the provisions in there was the local override. Has that gone out?
Yes, the crux of it is that you will still need to go back to the legislature if there are decisions that exceed the limitations that they're putting in there as of now.
Okay, thank you.
And just one comment, following up on what Commissioner Powell said, for anybody out there listening, if we did get rid of property taxes are, our budget is over $9 billion. Property taxes are just near $2 billion, but our property taxes are what fund our police and our fire. So if we don't collect property taxes, we can't give you any kind of public safety. So for anybody listening, just know that. Commissioner Sacks.
I'd like to move to receive and file at this time.
Do I have a second? Any more comments? I'll have a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor? All opposed? See, that motion carries 4-0. Does anybody have anything in their comments that needs a vote? Proclamations or anything like that? No? Okay. Since we lost a quorum. All righty, so that ends our regular agenda. Now we just have staff reports, board appointments. Or you have one and one for Commissioner Woodward also? Okay. So go ahead, Commissioner Weiss, if you want to make your appointments.
Sure. On behalf of Commissioner Woodward, I am reappointing Brian Steinberg to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. And do you have any of your own?
I do not.
Commissioner Powell, do you have any appointments?
Not at this time.
Okay. So, staff comments. Administration, any comments? Attorney? Okay. Any just general comments in particular?
For those that practice, wishing you a very happy Passover.
And I did want to say that we actually attended a name change for Thomas Corey for the VA hospital this week. And it was a wonderful ceremony for somebody who went above and beyond the call of duty and continued his life, his legacy of speaking up for veterans. So it was an honor to be there, and it was an honor to see that he was recognized by the federal government in such a manner. So with that, we're adjourned.